Have you been? That's right. Are you back on the commission board too?
No. Okay.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 10:05 a.m. and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And just a note on the pledge of allegiance, one nation under God, there's no comma there, it's one sentence. So properly recited, it's one nation under God. That's just a pet peeve of mine. So all right, roll call, please.
Okay, Dan Ashford. Okay, so here. I've got to get my things, just a minute. Dolores, Kathleen. Where's my stuff? Okay. Okay, Kathleen Vishwana here. Dan is not here yet.
Be here at 10:45.
Okay, Stan Weiner.
Here.
Yeah. Stephanie Walker.
Here.
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 Okay. And Dan.
Roland.
Roland Lynch, what do we know about him? Roland.
She's calling him.
Okay. That's Kathleen, yeah. Okay. And this is
So we do have a,
three, yeah. That's what I was like,
Yeah,
4, 5,
we have 6 in attendance currently. Oh,
and then Dan, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good enough.
all right, excellent, thank you. Do we have any persons wishing to address the board with prior?
We have Cindy in here to present. She can either, because we have a finance report, as well as, can I see a copy of your, well, oh wait, I have my board book in the office. That's fine.
Would you like, yeah, go ahead.
Cindy's gonna do our presentation. So
Would you
we
like
have
to do that
extend
during
it.
the finance, or would you like to do it?
I heard you say Dan will be here at 10:45. Do you want me to wait till he's here?
That might be better,
And
and
that's fine.
and
with
Stan
me.
may be here as well, as that way we all,
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
or I mean, Rollins. Let me have a little caffeine,
Yeah.
although this is decaffeinated tea. So
This
it's not
is
gonna
not
help me.
good, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna hold off on her presentation
Okay.
until Dan gets here and Rollins.
Okay.
If Rollins, I don't know if she's still or. Okay, so before we move forward, we need to put that into the agenda. Approving the agenda for the meeting. That's not on the agenda, so we're gonna add that to the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda that anyone can think of?
You're gonna appoint your committees?
I'm going to, we're going to appoint the one committee today, but we're going to wait because we already know who's going to be on that committee. I'm waiting for the other ones until we appoint a new board member so that we can appoint that person to a committee as well. Since they're not here, we'll volunteer them. Okay, so if there's no additions, I accept the motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
But properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Agenda is approved. Okay. So we're going to hold off on the Stevenson and Company report until later. So has everyone had the chance to review the February meeting minutes? Are there any additions, corrections?
Well, there was corrections, but do we have them? We don't have them, do we? We have corrections to January.
The January meeting.
Yep.
So we have not even looked at these, or I mean, we should have looked at them, but not, we haven't talked about them at the board.
I was noticing, I guess at the last meeting, at some point we were voting, and I don't think it was maybe on the ESO thing.
Mhm.
And I think you told us that Stephanie wasn't here. I believe we should put a note in the minutes as to when someone leaves the board meeting, because that could hamper our quorum.
Being able to hear.
Right, yes.
And I noticed NIMSA always put it in their last one, when people leave, they put it that so-and-so left, so you might have to.
And the time, you know,
The
like
time, yeah.
10:30 or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Or a lot of times what we do, with the, I forget which one of the 12 boards I'm on that does this, but in the roll call, it'll say Mike Maturin and then in parentheses left at 10:15.
But technically that's earlier in the meeting, so as you're going through it. Because I was looking at some of the old board meeting minutes and,
Which don't show necessarily.
no,
No, they don't.
and
They
you
never
know,
have.
that there are a lot of absences.
Yeah, I would,
Note.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with doing it in the roll call, just adding when they left. That does follow protocol, but we can also put it in the minutes in a chronological thing as well. I don't really care. That's up to the secretary.
Well, I'm on the NIMSA board, and the NIMSA, how would you say, their board policy and their minutes. I mean, they have an attorney that reviews all this, and I mean, I've never seen an organization that wasn't more familiar with the proper rules.
Right.
And they put it where people leave.
They do, and that's fine. But legally, it can be done either way as long as it's noted. So it doesn't have to be chronological. But either way, it's not a point to argue about. I agree with you, it should be in there based on quorum. I don't think having people leave has ever cost us a quorum, at least since I've been president, but it's good to have it so that if anybody questions.
It's documented.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so duly noted. Obviously, we can't go back and do that previous minutes, so, but I think moving forward, including today, that would be a good idea. Also, we could note, like Dan O'Connor won't be here till 10:45. We should note when they arrive as well, because if there was a voice vote, not a roll call vote, we need to know that we had a quorum. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if this is a question that should be brought up now or not, but my neighbor told me that on our Facebook page or something, that it's got Dan O'Connor and the
Stephanie,
girl at the clinic
Stephanie.
on as members at large.
Yeah, we need to go back and check that because I don't believe they were elected as members at large.
They were elected as board members.
That's what I thought.
That is, I think I'll edit that on Facebook.
Yep.
But
Well,
I don't believe that I have anything on Facebook that has the board members. I'll check that,
Well,
but
it's on your website.
it might be
Well,
on.
maybe it's
Yeah,
website.
it is the
But I've seen
website,
it,
yeah.
the website.
It's not the Facebook page.
Okay.
But I think Stephanie came on last February.
Right.
And I read those minutes, and it didn't say whether or not she was a member at
Right.
large
She
or
was-
not, but the definition for member at large in the bylaws says that you could have 3 members at large,
Right.
not one.
Right. The Stephanie replaced a regular board member. So she replaced there wasn't a member at large. So she is a actual board member. Dan, I was not here when he joined the board, so I can't
Well,
speak to
he
that.
joined as a regular board member, but he said he wanted to be a member at large.
But he never submitted anything to the board,
Right.
just like,
So-
looks like
That's-
Barry Kid did.
Right.
And
That's
said,
never
okay,
been a board action.
never been,
Well, maybe that's why it's on that.
It could be.
Facebook thing or
He
whatever.
offered to do it. He
Mhm.
never really said,
Okay.
he said, I'm willing to
if needed.
and I would have to I remember that. But as far as how he was elected, I can't. speak
I'll
to
take
that.
care of the Facebook and website today to update.
Thank you. Okay, and to that end, it probably wouldn't hurt to look at possibly adding a member at large or 2. I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
But
We
the
have-
member at
we
large
have-
cannot vote. or
Correct.
closed session.
We have, you have 2 candidates, they're still waiting.
Right.
That you guys can make a selection, and if you chose one to be on the board as an appointment for that position,
Have the
you
other
can, you
one.
can have the other one as a member at
Right.
large.
And that was my thought. Are we going to hear from the second candidate?
You did not approve the application. So I sent the job application and her resume to you guys both on your agency, and
Right.
we had not seen an approval. If you
Okay.
wanted to review her, you did approve for Will St. John to come in and address the board,
Yeah.
but not the other candidate. So I just assumed that they didn't pass muster.
If everybody is okay with it, I would say we probably ought to have a discussion on that second candidate.
We haven't seen anything about it.
It was all mailed out to us.
I didn't get
That's
anything.
right.
No, I
You check
sent,
your agency email.
I
I
don't
sent,
get
I sent to, yeah, well, you do now, because I synced it to your phone, Dolores.
Well, I don't do that though.
Okay.
I need to get it in the mail.
Your,
Or in our packet.
Where, the
Well,
packet.
I submitted it to the board president and vice president. And then they review, and then if they want everyone to see it, then they bring a candidate in front of the board. The secondary candidate had 3 lines on their resume. The other candidate had pages as well as previous experience. They asked to see, the board president said, "I like to see this candidate." So we've only had 2 candidates since then that have applied.
So can we get that information today? So we can decide,
Is there a
or
way?
is it? or is
Is
it-
there a way Jesse could print it out? I'm always a firm believer in give everyone a chance because just because they don't have a long resume, I mean, Bill Gates didn't have a long resume when he started either, and look where he's at. So that's just my personal opinion, but I don't run the board, I just run the meeting. So I'm just one of 9. So I think maybe if we can take a look at that, we can decide
Mhm.
whether to give that person, I think it was a female, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Give that lady a chance. I just didn't want to say lady and have it be a man or vice versa.
We need one more person,
We have 1 opening on the board to replace
and
Mary
then the
Kidd,
other one can be a member at large if they choose to.
or if we
okay.
choose to appoint them.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we should get that information so we can look at it.
Okay, we'll get there before the end of the meeting if possible. All right, so we've gotten way off the agenda. Let's get back here.
We were talking about the minutes on the last page, and we were talking about the, let's see, the people that were going to be using the upstairs, and the question came up as whether or not we should let them eat up there, and we were talking about, Dolores and I did not agree that since we couldn't have food downstairs, we shouldn't have food upstairs, but that's not in this motion. Because I think it's, what was it, a knitting club?
Crafting group.
Crafting,
what?
a crafting thing that meets up there?
The knitting.
Oh,
Oh, knitting.
I know it was something.
Yeah.
So it says that the motion was to allow them to use the upstairs, but it was my understanding that that motion had already been made, and the second part of the motion was whether or not they could eat.
Right.
And that part is not in the minutes.
And I actually did not believe that it was the second part of the motion. It was obvious that whatever, and that was kind of the discussion around the table,
Mhm.
was that they were going to continue with their meetings. And if their meetings included them having a potluck, then it was going to be a potluck. And we all approved it except for 2 dissenters.
The
There was a
discussion
second
was
motion.
eating upstairs, and I said, if we
I know that
can't
was
eat
the
down here.
problem. That was the problem.
Right.
But it was not. It was never a motion.
I don't
Yeah, it
recall
was,
it being.
we voted no.
Yeah,
Well, you voted
You
no.
voted no to have the
No,
the
no,
knitters.
we didn't.
No, we didn't.
No, we
I
did
didn't have
not.
any objection because you're already using the second floor for exercise. So
Well,
why
that
would
was-
we object to using crafters up there? It was bringing food, because
We objected, we did not object to the knitting class meeting upstairs. We objected to the eating upstairs. I said, if we can't eat down here, we shouldn't eat up there. And then that was put to a vote, and I voted
And
no,
no.
that we should not eat
And I voted
upstairs.
no.
Well, I can, to me, that was one motion. Can the knitters come upstairs and use the upstairs? You brought up the fact that they ate upstairs,
No, because
but
that
it was
came
never
on-
brought a motion.
Yes,
It was part of the motion, can the
No.
knitters use it?
It-
That was my understanding.
Supposedly it's on a recorder, right,
Yes,
Lenny? So
we
all you gotta do is.
watched it and we dictated and we put what was said. as
There was no
every,
motion about the,
everything that we say in these meetings are recorded. And then somebody sits for 2.5 hours after the meeting and listens to it and takes notes on everything that's said. So their interpretation was what Pam just said, was that if they can use it, because it was my understanding that the rub was, if we can't have congregate meals in the basement down here, why should we be allowing people to meet upstairs and have food and meet? So then the motion was put forward, can the crafters come back in and meet and everything that goes with that? And then everyone voted and then you guys dissented. So that was the interpretation of the video, and that's what our staff, and that's what was recorded, because that was the thing. It wasn't a separate motion. I would think, I guess in the future, we should clarify the motion before the vote so that everybody understands the motion that you are doing. And then we'll read it back and then we'll cast a vote from there. Because if it has a lengthy discussion like it does now, things could be lost in translation.
And technically, when a motion is made, the chairman or the president repeats the full motion before it's put to a vote, so that everybody understands what it is.
Which would be easy if motions were made other than I so move, which is usually what happens. So, yeah, I
Well,
agree with you.
that should be changed.
We
though,
need to
because
articulate, well,
On here, this reads that I didn't want the knitters to come in here at all. And that was not the case.
That's right. You said food, and I agree with you about the food.
well, unfortunately,
Well,
we all
but you're
listen
the
to it.
secretary.
But we can change
but
that.
that- but
I
that-
am.
Hold on. Bring the meeting back to order. Please. I don't normally use the gavel, but I'm getting tired of constant interruptions. We need, if we're going to change the minutes, it needs to be agreed upon by everybody. The discussion is great because we need to clarify these things so that we all know that we're on the same page. What I would say moving forward is when we make a motion, let's not just say I so moved, which is easy to do. But I think we need to clarify, as Kathleen said, I move to blah, 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 blah. That way I can repeat it back. Then if there's any questions, hey, Roland, if anything comes up in the discussion, that is not part of a motion. That's just discussion. People can amend the motion.
Pam,
If
it's 10:22.
if discussion comes up that is a good point, like the eating upstairs, then the original motion can be amended by the person that made that motion. Okay, but once the motion is on the floor, we have to either vote on that motion or amend it. We can't, or table it. We can vote to table it as well. But we need to have, and I agree with Kathleen, we need to have things in place here so that everything is easy for everyone to understand. Anyone that goes back and looks at the minutes, because it does appear as though the motion was, and I was on a connection that wasn't the greatest, so I was cutting in and out that day. But I kind of remember it the way Pam remembered it, that it was part of the discussion, not part of the original motion, and the motion was never amended. That's the way I remember it, but again, I didn't go back and listen to the tape again. So I think if we want to amend the minutes to reflect that, then I think probably everyone needs to go back and listen to it again, not try and remember something from a month ago. And then that would be my opinion. Again, I'm not in control. I only bang the gavel.
Can there be a motion made at this time to change it or word it differently or something?
You can, because we haven't voted on approving the minutes yet. Yes, you can say that that is a correction and then we can vote, because there's contention as to whether it's a valid correction or not. I mean, there's discussion about it. So yeah, you can make that motion. We can discuss it and then we can vote whether or not to change that. Right.
Well, I would like to make a motion to let the minutes reflect that I voted no against eating upstairs. I did not vote no against the meeting. I voted no against eating.
Okay.
And I
so-
don't know if that's the right words I should
Sure,
use,
yeah.
but that is what I voted no against.
Okay, so just so that I clarify in my mind, are you saying that the original motion should reflect that if eating is a part of it, I mean, as a package, you don't mind the knitters coming in, but if we're gonna allow them to eat, you wanted to vote no on that motion?
Right. I
Not,
voted,
not two separate motions, eating and attending, it'd be one motion. That
Well-
if attending included eating, then you're gonna,
should it be two separate motions?
Well, it
No,
can't be,
no.
but that's part of their,
No, it was part of the original motion.
and it's part of the, yeah,
it's part of their meeting.
and it's part of their meeting, so,
No, but
They
it
have a
isn't.
potluck. Yeah, that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
That was what they wanted. They wanted a potluck along with their meeting.
Just like they always have.
But they haven't.
No.
They haven't always done that. They've never done that. So
what
that's
they
why
wanted.
I didn't think it was included in their request to meet upstairs. But anyway, that's, I want the minutes to reflect that I did not vote against them meeting upstairs. I voted against eating upstairs.
okay, so instead of changing the motion, because the outcome's gonna be the same, we approved the meeting, so if you want to change the minutes to reflect that, and that would agree with what Pam remembers and I remember and Lenny remembers, is that it was,
Remember it too.
and Roland, we can, change the minutes to reflect that you and Kathleen, right, not Catherine, I can't remember that, I know that. Usually I use protocol, they never shown us, but,
Eating.
that your objection was to the eating, because we're not having copyright meals. Kevin,
Right.
do you agree with that as well?
Right.
Okay. If you want to make that the motion,
Yes.
okay. All right, so the motion on the floor is to change the meeting minutes from February 23rd to reflect that the no vote was by Kathleen and by Dolores was on the eating upstairs, not on their meeting. That we approved the meeting, but the no vote was on the eating upstairs
Right.
for the two. Okay. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay, so we've been properly moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, aye.
I,
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Any other corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing and seeing none, well, we actually don't need a motion to accept minutes. I would, the minutes are approved as amended. Okay, so, well, that was lively. It's okay.
do we see the corrections? Is the corrections gonna be made?
Yes, that's what we're doing. That's like
These
with,
are for the January.
and then she
Those are the
under,
corrections.
right, she underlined the things that are correct. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we got that. Financial report,
All right.
and Tony will do. or are
Hey,
you doing
Leanne,
that?
can you send Tony in to do the financial report, please?
Might say most of the board around the table again.
Yeah, it is.
I haven't been into a board meeting live in quite some
I know.
time.
Leanne, can you hear me?
You might wish you wouldn't have today.
No,
No, that's
the only drawback is I had to put on pants.
But then here's a short.
I think, oh, yeah, I did, okay.
Yeah. Did you- Are you
Yeah, I
wearing,
did.
are you wearing plaid or?
No. No, I'm not, I forget which senator it was. I was telling Dolores, it was in a committee meeting or something, and he stood up from his desk and he forgot he was wearing boxer shorts. Oops. And we pay these guys $180,000 a year. They can't remember to put pants.
And half the time they're sleeping.
Financial report is gonna be Cindy, so we're gonna flip flop. Let's move to the next one.
Okay, all right,
Is
yeah,
Dan-
because we're waiting on,
Dan here?
Right,
no, we're waiting on Dan. Is Dan coming live or is he?
I don't know. He just said he would be here. He had another COVID-19 situation that he had to address.
Oh, yeah, there's
Yeah.
two students and a staff member.
That's the ball kid.
Yeah,
So,
Okay.
commissioners report, we can go from there.
so, we're the commissioner, would you?
Sure. Well, fire wasn't here last month. I had commitments to be other places that were scheduled a year before. And that's the same reason I wasn't at the county commissioner meeting this last time, because I was downstate again. What I have to report is sort of sparse. The Alcona County cleanup is moving forward. There's some flyers that we can pass out. That'll be on May 15th at the fairgrounds,
Thank
8
you.
to 2. Yeah, we can have whatever's out there. I'll get some around. And I got some regular posting ones. The other thing is that the county fair is moving forward. We're going to, we have a grant submitted for new bleachers. I don't know if that's gonna happen or not. All the entertainment was secured from last year. They've all said they were doing it. We've sent out sponsorship letters again, thanking those that have left their sponsorship in from last year. So we're hoping to move forward. We're doing some repair on the buildings and
You can have mine.
they all fit basically the same thing. But at this point, we're be outside as far as the county cleanup. So we're hoping that that doesn't interfere with anyone. And most of the time, there's not more than a set amount of people at a station. The things will be offered to have masks, if they have shoes and the gloves and so forth for safety. And we have 4 stations scheduled. They have one with Smith Sanitation, 2 with Travis, and 1 with Waste Management this year. So Travis said he could pick up on 2 stations, and it keeps it a little more local.
How are you doing with volunteers? I know I got volunteered at church Sunday.
Volunteers, I don't technically keep track. If they want to show up, it starts at 8, so we, 7:30, between 7 and 7:30, they show up. They find me, and basically what we do is we have the truck open for gloves and stuff,
Right.
and assign where they're going to be on what station. Some of them want to be with a certain group. I know the Alcona Township, they'd like to be together,
Mhm.
and so even if one shows up, we sort of direct the other ones over to them. Some family members want to, they'll bring grandchildren or whatever that would prefer to be with their grandparents, and we do that too. So, but any volunteer, you don't have to throw. We have places for the gate people. We have runners that will get information back and forth. We also we have pizza and water and pop. And so that requires some people to move around.
I'll be there with the ham radio group. I'll do
Yep.
whatever Stan.
And Stan's already said he's got it scheduled, and he'll have the coffee ready, and we'll have donuts in the morning. And, so it's progressing.
You're gonna do tires?
Tires again, what we've done is it's considered now Eagle. It used to be the DEQ, it's now Eagle. Last year, I got a grant for $4,000 to do just tires. And we did collect another 1,000 tires out of our county, but when you send it out, it only used $2,400 of that 4,000. Normally you lose, if you don't burn it, you lose it type thing with them. Well, this year they sent a letter and they're carrying it, the remainder is carried over. So I've got $1,400-1,500 that's going to be moved over, so we can use that towards the tires. I've increased the number of free tires to 5 rather than the first 4. And it's still $1 a tire except for the tractor tires. And the reason the tractor tires are more expensive is what happens. Last year, you get 1,000 tires in, but if you've got 50 tractor tires, they take up all that space in the trailer. And the guys that own the trailer, they say, well, that trailer can carry 1,900 trailers. But I lose that space with the tractor tires.
Sure.
So they had to send another truck up. I had the truck, first one full, and they came back up with another semi to pick up 100 tires.
We had somebody show up with a flatbed,
We had
full-size
83
flatbed
trailers.
trailer with a bunch of
Yeah,
tractor
and people
tires.
don't realize
Oh my
that
God.
Oh,
the
yeah.
law states if you carry more than 10 tires, you have to have a hazardous waste, a trailer for tires.
Yeah.
A tire permit.
Really?
And I don't enforce it, but it's a new rule. And how many people knew that if you carry more than 10 tires on a trailer, that you gotta go
Yeah.
through all that?
We took, I think it was 38 to Greenbush that
Yeah.
year, on our trailer and they didn't say anything about,
No, and usually we don't.
but he gets reimbursed from, Carl, he gets reimbursed from, oh, I don't know what it is now, but anyway, he gets, whatever he has to pay out of pocket,
Okay, somebody
they
reimburses.
reimburse him.
Okay, and the same thing, we don't get that, but what we do is we accept anybody. If Greenbush has their own, but there's some people that miss it down here, they're more than welcome to come up and they just pay the gate fee, whatever it is at that time.
You're still going back and forth. They have it 1 year, we have it, and then
No, county does theirs every other year, period. Greenbush didn't have theirs last year, I don't think.
no.
But they were doing theirs every year, and they
Oh.
were dealing with Travis. And they
Right.
had it right there on the site. And that's one of the reasons they don't physically participate with us, but any of the residents can come. Again, this is countywide. This is the whole idea is to give the county residents a chance to get rid of unwanted stuff for a reasonable price. And I think our prices stayed the same, but you can bring a truck with a gooseneck trailer, 16-foot long, and pay $60 and get it all gone. And we take everything but hazardous and sitting in cinder blocks and stuff like that. So it's a good thing.
It is. We go on the 2-track trails.
Yes.
We spend about 4 or 5 different Sundays and go on all these little trails.
Mhm.
It's fun.
And if you do that for ours, if you let us know, we don't charge for organizations to go out and do that.
Gather stuff.
Right, they just have to let us know at the gate that what you're doing, and same with the supervisor knows that a person A bought property in the county that had tires on it. If they verify it and give a piece of paper, which we have a form, those tires come in free.
Well, we're not an organization though, it's just.
It doesn't matter, if you just
Him and I do
indicate that you've done this and we take your word for it, that you went out on the roads and did it, we just need to know that the sportsman club up in Hubbard Lake used to do it all the time. One man took Hubbard Lake, where was he? Lost Lake Woods, I think he was last time, and he parked his trailer, said he'd do the travel movement. He ended up bringing in something like 80 tires, and then he went back home and somebody had just piled up tires where the trailer was. So he came back and he actually felt bad, so he stayed and worked. But yeah, but we moved in 3 years, we moved out 3,000 tires out of our county.
That's wonderful.
And it works well that way. Now, this will be our 4th year with the tire removal.
And last year we had at least 30 tires that people came that were still in decent shape that people came and scavenged and took home with them.
The tractor, same with the tractor, because a lot of people that have older tractors and they just want to keep it air and they'll
Right.
pick through the tires. Yep, it's fine, as long as they don't get hurt. you know,
Yep.
do it that way.
Absolutely.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
I have a question,
Appreciate it, Bill.
Commissioner Johnson.
What's that?
The new emergency relief funds that are coming from the feds, from Biden
Yeah.
administration, that there are going to be some county allocations as well as city
Correct.
allocation. I just had a question. I sent an email, but I just wanted some clarification. Will you be accepting requests for proposals from agencies like ourselves for some of those funds, or are you guys going to be making those funds available for COVID relief?
At this point, well, we know they'll be for COVID relief. The biggest question I had heard that wasn't answered yet was how it's perceived that it's going to be divided up, meaning like the newspaper said $2.some million
Yeah,
was coming to the county. What it didn't say was how it was supposed to be used, because on that same article, Alcona was jumping over there, they're going to put so much of it in their retirement, so much over here. And then the next day or so, they came back out and said that can't happen, it has to be COVID.
For COVID
Yeah,
relief?
so my gut feeling is our finance department is waiting for directions from the source, and at that point, they would let everyone know. I technically don't have a good answer for you.
No, I just wanted to put that out there that, when you guys do have an opportunity, the commission would like to make a request for proposal.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions for Bill? Okay. I've been advised that Dan is not going to be able to make it by 10:45, so rather than delaying on the financial report, let's go ahead and go back to the financial report. If you would do that, please.
So Lenny, are you gonna pull up the,
Yes, ma'am. I will share my screen with everyone at home.
So now did the board receive the electronic audit report?
They have it printed out inside their book.
Perfect.
Is it under NEMSCO report? No?
So it's right here, isn't it?
Oh,
Well, there's the bound copies, and then I know that we sent electronic copies. So I don't believe that everyone would have received the bound copy. We
No,
brought a
But you
handful
would
of
have
bound
gotten, I
copies to the
believe,
agency.
we did a print.
We did not get a electronic copy,
yeah, I don't recall getting electronic
and
either.
I just looked.
So this is the actual audit report. And what I'm gonna do is, and I apologize, I don't know if you want me to stand so you can come this side because the presentation is gonna be behind you. And I want you to be able to see.
Which,
Oh, it's gotta be off the paper though. that you gave.
Oh, you do have that. Okay, then yeah. So what I want to do is we're going to talk through the audit report, but I think going page by page through this would bore you to death. So I'm going to talk through what's changed, what's new, what's important, and what things do I think are of interest to you. If I skip something, ask. I want to make sure your questions are answered, but I want to try to keep it more interesting and valuable to you than just going line by line. So first off, so next slide, Lenny, please. The audit report layout. Think of this as like a table of contents for your audit report. And it starts with the audit opinion letter. The entire reason why we do what we do is not to give you a pretty set of financials or to say whether or not you're in a great place financially or a poor place. But the objective of an audit is to issue an opinion on the financials to say, is this accurate information that can be relied upon? Is it free of material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error? And we were able to issue an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can give. We're saying, yes, this is accurate information that can be relied upon. So that's a great thing. Then following our opinion letter are the financial statements, and we'll talk through those. And then we have notes to the financial statements, which just gives you a little bit more meat behind the numbers. And then finally, the management letter, which we'll talk about, that talks about responsibilities and the canned communication, as well as recommendations of things we want to see changed. The next slide, beginning on page 3, are the actual financial statements. So if you were looking at the actual bound report, page 3 is what starts the actual numbers. So your net assets, think of your net assets if this were a for-profit business with your net worth. It's what you have minus what you owe, what's left. So your net assets at September 30th, 2020 were just over $1 million, $1,004,258. This was an increase of just over $200,000 from last year. If we look at those net assets in comparison with your current year expenses, we like to see that, assuming you have no future projects going on, which is not true, we know this. But if we were going to take into consideration and pull away from that number any major projects, purchases, vehicles, equipment, any of those big costs you have coming down the line over the next 5 to 10 years, the comfortable point is about 15% of your expenditures still sitting there to cover your payroll, to cover any other types of obligations you have in case funding were to stop coming in. You have some huge projects coming up. So I don't want you to look at that amount and see that it's 51% of your expenditures and say, oh, it's too high. No, you've got huge projects going on. So I think you need to take a step back from that number. And maybe you've already done this, but you need to think through how much of that fund balance are these big projects we have coming down the pipe going to suck away from that total. And whatever's left, are you still within 15 to 20% of your expenses? If you are, you're golden. If you have more, then that just means you can probably do some more projects or provide more services or do something different that way. But I don't ever want someone to look at that number and immediately think it's too high. You have to look big picture. And I know for you, your big picture is huge right now.
It's an understatement.
Yeah. So new programs, speaking of all of your big undertakings, you have a lot of change going on this year. So when you look at the financial statements, you're going to see some new programs. So if I were to direct you to page 4, under the expenses here, we list all of your programs. And those, anything that had a 0 in 2019 and now there's a number in 2020, those are services that were provided in 2020 that weren't happening in 2019. You have a lot of new activities going on. Some of the biggest is your non-emergency medical transportation. I know that's just getting up and running, but that's a whole brand new program that we had to dig into this year. And then you also had the Food Bank of Lincoln, which drastically skews your numbers when you compare 2020 to 2019. Huge differences. So for example, I'm on page 4. If I look at your total revenues in 20, we're over 2 million. In 2019, we're under 800,000. That's directly related to the food bank, because all that food that comes in and gets donated or that gets purchased at a discount, we have to show that as revenue and as an expense. So your revenues and expenses this year are drastically higher as a result of the new program. Go to the next slide, please. So new grants. You received roughly $100,000 in new grant dollars in 2020. I have to say, I think that your director is extremely ambitious and hardworking, and to see all the new programs and the grants that come in to pay for those is just tremendous. You received $78,000 through an MEDC grant from Alcona County, $10,000 through SBA grant, $4,500 in a food bank donation, $4,200 in another food bank donation from Eastern Michigan, $1,000 from United Way, $829 from a senior center wellness grant, and $500 in a census grant.
Like calling my mom's in the hospital.
So lots of new grants going on, and I know there's even more still coming. This is just what was received and spent as of September 30th, 2020. So if we come down and look at the NEMSCA revenue versus expenses, it might not seem like huge. You can't necessarily see the color fluctuating, but what this is representing is if you look at 2018 and you see that 43.33% of in blue, well, for you it'd be gray, but blue on the screen. That's telling you what percentage of your expenses were covered by NEMSCA grants. Of your NEMSCA programs, what percentage were covered by NEMSCA grants? And in 2018, it was at 43%. In 2019, it went down to 41.7%. In 2020, you were able to really maximize your bang for your buck with those NEMSCA grants, and you were able to get 47.15% of your activity covered by the grant. So that's not necessarily new programs. That's just better utilization of what you're
Cost
requesting drawdowns
allocation.
on.
Having the cost allocation.
So next slide. For meals provided, something you're going to see as we look at the next couple slides, I want to compare the meals being provided and then look at what the cost per meal is, as well as the donation per meal. And you're going to notice in 2019, in each of the slides, 2019 is skewed from previous years. And if you think back to last year, lots of transition in last year's audit. You had 3 different directors essentially over the course of that time frame of the fiscal year in the audit. You had a lot of staffing changes. So I can't give you anything to prove this, but my belief is that our numbers, our meal counts for 2019 probably weren't perfectly accurate because we were going off of the NEMSCA reports and the kitchen reports, and there were a lot of challenges in doing that. And so I think with all the transitions last year, we have some issues with the total numbers there, but I'm confident with our 2020 numbers. So you can see congregate went down, which we would expect. You had to close your doors for congregate meals for part of the year. Home delivered meals went drastically up. I would expect that. What I don't expect is the drop from 18 to 19 of 26,000 to 22,000 in home delivered meals. And then the meal waivers went down. Let's go to the next one, please. So if we look at that in total meals, this is where I said, I'm thinking that, oh, one too many. I'm thinking 2019 is understated there. I think more meals were provided than we were able to provide documentation for last year. But I don't think that is an issue moving forward now that you have that stable employment and director. And
If I recall a discussion from last year, that was the issue with there was a documentation issue.
Right.
Mhm.
And you will see that when we get to management comments this year, I did put a management comment on the meal counts because the numbers from point A, B, and C might not always match,
Right.
but I think we're on the right track now. Go to the next slide. So average donation per meal, this is just looking at congregate meals. It had that spike in 2019. I believe that the 2019 total meal counts were understated, which would make it look like you got more money per meal because you're dividing it by less meals. So I don't think $3.12 is accurate. I think it's probably in the high $2. But then this year we dropped down to $2.49. With the environment we're dealing with, that is not unlike what I see at other commission on aging. Next slide. So for home delivered meals, we actually saw a bit of an increase. And man, that's just such a tough one. If you were, for anyone that was on the board back in 2018, we had the comments, because I believe you brought me in at the end of 17 because there were some concerns. And we came in, implemented some controls in 2018. We saw that hike, then it dropped back down. I tend to think that 2019 was not really at $1.07. I think it was higher than that. And that now we're seeing it go back down because of the current environment. So unfortunately, this is one of those things we're going to have to watch the trend, watch the controls, make sure we have good controls in place, which right now I do believe you do. I think it was a documentation issue in 19. In 17, I think you had some issues and that they were taken care of in 18, which is why it went back up.
All right.
You're good. We're ready for the next slide when you are.
We're just trying to trace the sound of that feedback.
Oh,
I can hear it over here.
Yes, it's our front computer. Didn't get a chance to get to it.
so average cost per meal. So this is really exciting. Last year when we came in and did the audit, again, you had a new cook, you had new people involved, and we found that the commission wasn't utilizing the food bank as much last year as they could have, and I think it was just a matter of not knowing that they could. And so I had shown your cook last year how to do that and what she could be doing. Man, she went full force this year, utilized that food bank wonderfully, and she got that cost lower than it's been in 4 years. So $2.10 per meal on average. And that's only looking at food costs, nothing more.
That's great. And the quality doesn't seem to have dropped. I'm not hearing any real complaints
Good.
outside of the ordinary kind of complaints that we get. Yeah, right.
Good. So then total cost, this would be looking at the wages, the travel costs, the gasoline costs, the food costs, everything that goes into home delivered meals and congregate meals. Your total cost went from $9 last year down to $7.56. So great job. So if you think about that utilization with NEMSA monies going from 41%, I think up to 47%, this decrease in the cost per meal is over and above that. So that's just how much more efficient you were able to be in 2020.
And that was a 6-month time period.
So revenues. This is looking at the overall revenues for the commission. And you can see that if you look at that very middle there, in-kind contributions, holy cow, is that quite the jump. That's your food bank. That's your food bank as well as utilizing the Eastern Food Bank for your congregate and home delivered meals. So this is the food pantry, the pop-up pantry, and utilizing the food banks for your meals. So you received almost $1.3 million in food to either use or give away. That's huge. You can see property taxes had a jump. Now, if you remember, from 18 to 19, you had the millage increase, and now you've been able to stay status quo there. I think there might have been like a 1 or 2% increase overall. The grants, that's that big hike. I told you you had a solid $100,000 more in grants that you were able to use this year.
Thank you, Lenny.
Program income did have a little bit of a decrease, as we would expect. That's the donations coming in for the services you're providing. It's going down everywhere, unfortunately. Contributions and fundraising, you got a hike there. That's mostly related to your food pantry, pop-up pantry, people donating towards that. And then interest. It doesn't look as significant here as what you're going to see next year, but you invested dollars. You pulled money out of CDs that weren't gaining much interest. You put them into investments, And just in the year that we're testing alone, I believe you earned
31,000.
23,170 in investment earnings. But I believe from October through December, it was like another 80,000. It was huge.
Yeah.
So that interest going up is directly related to those investments.
Yeah.
Any questions on the revenues? You can go to the next slide too. So this just to give you a different view. I think this is a little skewed because of the in-kind contributions. You're not really getting a feel for what your other dollars are. So let's go one more slide in. And I gave you the revenues without those in-kind donations. So 54% of your actual cash is property taxes, 33% grants, 7% program income, which is your donations from people you're servicing, 3% outside contributions and fundraising, and then 3% interest. All right, expenses. Again, check out the food. Your food costs, and now this is going to include all that donated food and the food you purchase. Your food cost is at $1,350,259. So pretty incredible there. Salaries, you had a little bit of an increase there. There were pay increases given, $392,391 in total salaries. Contractual services went up. That's going to be a direct relation to having us handle your monthly accounting. Rent and utilities went down. You're no longer renting the Greenbush site, which I realized was an in-kind donation but we had to record what that rent would have been. Supplies are up a little bit, but look at all the services you're providing with that pop-up pantry, and then admin and others up just slightly. So just like with the revenue, if we look at how that's made up, 69% is food, but that's a skewed percentage because it's not true cash. So if we go one more slide in, you'll see that 64% of your expenses are related to your people. And this is very common. I usually see this between that 60 and 80% mark. So a big chunk of what you do is related to your people. And then it's followed by contracted services at 9%, depreciation, repairs and maintenance at 8%, admin and other 7%, supplies 6%, rent and utilities at 4%, and then travel at 2%. Questions on the numbers before I jump into the footnotes? So beginning on page 8 of the financial statements are the actual footnotes, which give you just a little bit more meat behind the numbers. And there's only a few of them I want to bring your attention to. The first is economic dependency. When you're receiving a significant portion of your dollars from one person or one group or one company, you're considered to be economically dependent. And so there are 3 organizations that we feel you would be considered to be economically dependent on. So this is just disclosure. But NEMSCA, you receive 13% of your revenues from NEMSCA. You receive 32% of your revenues from the Food Bank of Eastern Michigan. And again, a lot of that is in-kind donations, not actual cash. And then 27% of your revenue comes from Board and Food Services. And that again is the in-kind food that you're receiving from them. The next footnote I want to point out is the investments. I had mentioned that you just went into the investments this year. So if you were to look at that footnote, you'd see more information than you've seen in the past. So at September 30th, 2020, you had $823,170 in investments. And we're required to document what level of investments those are. And those are level 1 investments, which means they're safe. Essentially, that's what the short version of that is, that they're safe. And your net earnings, net any related expenses for those investments were $23,170 for the year. You had 2 long-term debts, essentially loans, during the year that you entered into. One was the SBA loan of $150,000 to be paid over 30 years. The other was the PPP loan of $69,400. However, after year end, so we considered a subsequent event, that loan was forgiven. So that will become revenue in your 2021 financial statements. Subsequent events. So when the board approves something after the end of the fiscal year, but before we issue our audit report, that's considered to be a subsequent event. And we need to let the user of the financial statements know that dollars have been spoken for. And so after the end of the year, the board approved for the executive director to obtain surveys for the potential new senior center property next to the Alcona Health Center. We thought that was important to note. And also after year end, the board approved a contract with Larry Molnar for a feasibility study at a cost of $25,000. For contingencies, we are required to disclose whenever there are potential contingencies out there, but we like to keep this as vague as we can while still meeting the requirements of the AICPA. So we just noted that the commission is currently a defendant in a lawsuit, but the outcome is not presently determinable. Questions on footnotes before I go into the management letter?
Yes, under subsequent events, you said obtain surveys for the potential new senior center property. What kind of surveys? Property surveys or?
That was the exact wording in the minutes. So I
So we
tried.
don't know what
There
kind
were
of surveys.
three, I believe.
There were 3 surveys: geological, ecological, or environmental,
Environmental.
geological, and soil boring surveys.
Right. Soil testing, environmental impact.
Mhm.
I'm just glad I didn't have to say those.
Yeah.
I thought you look up all the details.
To some extent, a subsequent event, I'm letting you know it's out there. Hey, if you want to research this.
Find it in the minutes, right?
Right.
Yep.
Oh, no, it wasn't in the minutes, you said.
No, it was.
Oh,
That's
was it?
where I
Was,
found
but in
it.
that wording.
Oh,
But in
okay.
that wording, yeah. So the management letter is what's loosely enclosed in the back of the balance report. And this has 2 appendices. The first appendix is required communication from me as your auditor to those charged with governance. And let's just quickly go down those bullet points. They don't change from year to year, but I think it's important to make sure everyone understands them. So significant audit findings, this would be for any changes. Were there any significant accounting policy changes this year? No. If you think back to a year ago, there were. We had to implement a whole bunch of new audit standards a year ago. This year, there were no new audit standards, so that was great. For significant estimates, I think it's important to note that the donated rent and the donated food items, that those are really estimates. We're estimating the value of what those donated items are. Now, we gauge that value, like for the food bank, they tell us what it's estimated to be, but we're relying on their estimates. So I want to point that out. It is an estimate. There were no difficulties encountered. There are no uncorrected misstatements that would make your financial statements materially incorrect. There were no disagreements with management. Management did provide us with representation at the end of the audit that says, yes, everything we've given you is accurate to the best of our knowledge. We're not withholding information from you. We're not aware of you consulting with other auditors for different opinions. I gave you the highest opinion that you can get. And there are no other issues or matters that we're not going to discuss in Appendix 2. So then Appendix 2.
I got a question on the other one.
Yeah.
It said donated rent. Lenny, is that when we have TFAB, is that donated rent?
Nope, this is talking about the rent that you get from the Glenny site, which was only for a portion of the year this year. I'm going off memory, but I want to say it's valued at like $50 a day. And so we look at the number of days that you had congregate meals at the Glenny site, and that's considered donated rent.
Oh,
Because they're charging you either nothing or significantly less. I don't remember.
okay.
So for Appendix 2, if you recall from last year, there's 3 different levels of management comments that we can give. The highest 2, and I'll just give you the definitions together because it's easier, are material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. By definition, if something is a big, significant portion of your financial statement, and it's reasonably possible something could go wrong, doesn't mean it did, but it's reasonably possible that your financials could be misstated as a result of this issue, then if it could be a material issue, it's a material weakness, or if it wouldn't be material, but it could still be consequential somehow, then it would be a significant deficiency. We did record the financial statement preparation risk as a material weakness. I want to explain what that means and why we did it that way. It is completely allowable by the AICPA standards for your auditor to prepare your financial statement. But we always disclaim and disclose to the board that these are still your financial statements that you take ownership of. So the information that goes into this is coming from you. And so we give the draft, we start with your numbers, we have to make proposed audit adjustments, and then we give it back for you to review, to approve, and take ownership of. So it's really our disclaimer to say, if there's an error, it's really on you to find that, because we're preparing off of your information. So it's a disclaimer. The reason we call it a material weakness is because there were significant adjustments that had to be posted throughout the audit, which is not uncommon. It's just something that we want to make sure that we're saying, yep, there were material adjustments that had to be posted. So we want to make sure you are aware of that disclaimer. But I can tell you on my government audits, when we submit these to the state electronically, the state says, were there any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies other than financial statement prep? They don't care. They know it's a disclaimer, but AICPA requires that we do disclaim that to you. So there were no significant deficiencies. And the only other matter we had was the meal counts. We found discrepancies where I think, I'm speculating, but I think what would happen is as the NEMSCO report was being prepared, they would find some discrepancies and correct it, but then not go back to that continuous log of meal counts to correct it over here. And so I think that it just, we weren't going back and making the changes back here when we found them over here. So just making sure that everything's consistent all the way through. As we find adjustments that need to be made, that we make them all the way through. But I think they'll get there, and I think they've made a lot of improvements in that area.
Considering where we came from, that's
Oh,
a huge
yeah.
improvement
Yeah.
to have one little ding. out of-
Well, yep, and look at this next slide. This is last year's dings. So really, if we pull financial statement prep out of there, because it's gonna be there every year.
Right.
We pull that out, you had 4, we say dings, but 4 areas of concern last year that you needed to address. This year you have 1, and it's just an other comment. It's not even a significant deficiency or material weakness. So I think that's pretty huge. Last year we had the credit cards and petty cash. And if you recall, we had a lot of situations where things weren't documented, things weren't reported. We found potential 1099 people getting paid through petty cash, which is a huge no-no, because then they're not getting properly reported through the taxing documents. For cash receipts, trying to recall exactly what that one was. I think that was just documentation of the cash receipting and putting it into the right places. And
Things that were purchased were not documented or signed off by boards, that was fall into the cash receipt.
okay, we had payroll issues, lots of different payroll issues last year with extra pays and extra vacation time getting paid and all of that. And then expense documentation, not being able to find expense documentation, finding expenses that were paid twice because they weren't properly canceled. A lot of issues last year that were all fully corrected, no repeat issues in any of those categories this year.
Then why in your management letter does it say that they still exist?
It doesn't,
In the last page?
it should not, and if it does, that's
The situation still exists.
that is an error, and I apologize. That should be in the progress made, and I will get that corrected.
These are very.
Good thing we're auditing your audit.
Thank you. Let's go back to that financial statement disclaimer. No, that is a very good point, and I will get that corrected, and I'll get you a new copy over.
Thank you.
Because no, that does not exist. Those were corrected.
Last slide.
And that's, Nathan Miller is one of my managers who works for me, and he is essentially in charge of this audit. So when I'm not here, he's running the show, and I am the partner on the job. And I guess for anyone who didn't know me, I think you all do, but I'm a partner at Stevenson and Company and have been working on, I worked on this audit way back when, and then you switched, and then Susan brought me back when there were some concerns. So
Thank you.
thank you,
Any questions for Cynthia? Cynthia or Cindy, what do you go by?
Cindy.
Cindy?
We
Any
will
questions
be,
for Cindy?
so save time, save on time. We're gonna be doing another audit in October.
Mhm.
I don't like the fact our audits have been in January, because these numbers, I'm now 7 months into my fiscal year. I would much rather be at the beginning of my fiscal year, so I have all of these numbers to project budgets and things. So we're gonna be moving up our audits to October. So if the board sees another audit request and funding for an audit, it's because we're gonna do it at the end of fiscal, not the beginning of a calendar year, because that's the way our budget runs, is fiscal.
Makes
Yep.
sense. Okay,
Just a comment, I've sat through other audits and I must admit, this is a very nice one to go through, even if you have things wrong. It's the way you presented it in a more simple form rather than a page by page hit with that, which we used to go through on the county level. This at least moved forward and it was
Thank you.
understandable, so
nobody fell asleep.
And
Thank
then
you.
slide them a business card and be like, the county can hire us.
I have gone after your. I can't.
So lunch on you, right?
One thing I didn't say, and I need to, because you're gonna want this to be part of your minutes.
Mhm.
I have prepared your Form 990, which is the nonprofit tax form. All the numbers match the report. It doesn't talk about comments, so we don't have to change anything here. But all the numbers match, but this has to get submitted, and I will do that electronically. I just need Lenny, let me see. Nope, I need your signature. This is your copy, but you're gonna want it to be in your minutes that you're accepting this report. So that way, I've never seen the IRS come back and audit it, but that is a requirement that you take ownership of this before it gets filed. Thank you.
So, okay, any other questions for Cindy?
So do we have to take a motion?
Yeah, we
That's
need
what
a
she's
motion.
asking for, a motion to approve the auditor's report.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I'm brain dead this morning. I would accept the motion to accept the auditor's report
I make a motion that the auditor's report be accepted
as amended
as amended because of the last.
Yes, I'm getting it changed
Okay.
right now.
On page end.
Yeah, the last page
Okay,
of the
so-
letter.
Pam made the motion, Roland seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, no, we're not spending money, we don't need a roll call. All in favor, aye? All opposed, nay?
Aye.
Motion carried. Oh,
She said aye.
oh, sorry. I thought she said Mike, I was like, wait. Okay, good, motion carried. All right, thank you, Cindy, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your hard work.
I know I asked you about the surveys and you said it was in the minutes. But in your review, did you find out what the cost of each of these surveys was?
No, because it's a subsequent event. And so it's not pertaining to the year we're auditing. It's just something that happened after the end of the year that I wanted to bring attention to.
She will have it. in
I
the
will
next-
have it in the
in the
next
next year's
audit because it'll be part of that year.
We may have, and I don't remember, I'd have to look at the minutes. Did we vote on a cap you could spend up to? Or did we just say?
It was a submission for services directly, so we,
Okay.
so like Sagasser submitted a proposal for the cost, and the board voted on that.
Okay,
SIDOT group submitted a proposal for cost, and then we voted on that, and
Right.
then, the other one, some
Okay.
P and Newman or something.
it's coming back.
So then were those costs paid already for these surveys?
Yes,
So there's in somewhere in the financial statement.
Yeah.
I don't know which one.
You're saying that the survey was already paid for in 2020?
the surveys, the surveys were paid for because the services were contracted and completed in that particular time. So that would have been in December. So it would have been after the fiscal.
Yeah, that's okay, yeah.
after
It's
February.
after the year we're
Yeah.
auditing.
Yeah.
So you got a word.
Yeah, I'm going, no, I promise, it's not in
I just saw a
there.
couple gray hairs.
Yeah,
popping
no,
up.
I mean, we sat down and we talked about this, but because you asked me for the survey report, and I gave you
Right.
the survey
Yeah.
report with what
No,
we paid
I'm
for.
saying 20, I'm thinking your 20 ends
Yeah.
September 30th.
Right.
Right.
So it would have been,
Yeah. And I already sent it to my office for fixing
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Dan is still not here, so let's go to in-home service report, please.
Leanne, that would be you. All right, she's on the way.
He's still coming or?
He's just saying that it's more in depth for the one he's able to dictate, so he's dealing with COVID.
So I'm guessing.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, I'm gonna come in here and throw a wrench right in everything.
Great.
Okay.
Perfect.
So,
Yourself.
I mean, you guys have my numbers in your book. of what we did for in-home services. You will see that I did add, because as I was thinking about it this month, I'm like, why do our numbers keep going down? I forgot to add that we are taking on more DHS clients. So I included the hours that we're spending with those DHS clients. So what was coming away from homemaking is kind of now going into DHS. So I just spoke to them this morning, so hopefully we'll be able to help another person who really needs it very, very soon. So you'll see those numbers rise. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, and I alluded to it last month, but I want to talk a little bit more in depth because it's been a struggle this entire month, is we talked about the fact that I'm struggling getting staff. Okay. So this month, Lenny put out on Indeed and on Facebook job postings for direct care workers. We get a lot of resumes. I think I have here that I received 20 this month. I did not have one person who answered the phone or accepted an invite to come do an interview. The people that do answer their phones, the minute I tell them how much the salary is, they're like, it's not worth my dress. I even went so far as to call a temp staffing agency because I was like, even a temp is better than nothing because we have so many people that need help. The temp staffing agency told me that they will not send anybody for less than $12 an hour. They don't even consider it. So I'm bringing it to you guys as this is one of our struggles. I had 2 people last month that came in. They did interview. I thought that they were good to go. We lost both of them. So I want to kind of pick your brains and put it out there for all of you, that this is what's hindering us right now. It says right at the bottom of our job descriptions for them that we have competitive wages, but if a temp staffing agency won't send somebody for $12, I don't know, you can't see me like doing my cringe. I do facial expressions. So that's where I'm at. I do have a waiting list of people. I have been removing certain clients from our schedule to fit the need of the people that are coming on board that need it more. The folks that I am removing and putting on the wait list are not happy. And I cannot tell you how, like, it physically hurts me to say to somebody, I have to remove your help from your home because there's somebody else who needs it more. Because how do you make that choice of somebody who is dealing with lung cancer that can't do her own housework, but because she hasn't tripped and fallen and hurt herself, she only scores a 2? You know, how do you help all of these folks that everybody has a need, but that paper doesn't adequately represent that need? So our goal was to get 10 direct care workers. I am currently at 7. I only have 2 that work full time. So that's another, you know, we need full-time people. We need people who want to come in.
Why don't the rest want to work full time?
They have kids or they have other obligations.
Our second part-time job.
What are we paying right now?
10 an hour is the starting point.
10.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the problem too, just, and I'm hearing this from other agencies, other businesses, is that right now with the boost in unemployment,
Mm-hmm.
for people making $10 an hour, they make way more money sitting at home.
Right.
And we're not going to compete with that at what we're currently paying.
And it's almost impossible to.
Right.
You know.
And I think that was one of the reasons we were going to try and do a.
It's in everybody's book.
Yeah.
When I get to my report,
Okay.
I'll have something for the board to
All right,
consider today.
we'll skip over that then. I mean, as far as right now, we're not.
Right.
But I think that's probably the large part of the problem is that. I mean, even McDonald's is paying, you know, if you go outside of this area, McDonald's is like in Traverse City, it's $15, $16 an hour starting pay. You know, so I think we need
Not to say we hated on McDonald's.
No,
No.
not at
We
all.
love
I
McDonald's.
like
ACCAA loves McDonald's. We don't want we don't want a letter.
No, yeah. No, I love McDonald's, but I mean, and
Right.
good for them for paying that.
Hey, Lenny.
Yes.
So if they were a full-time direct care worker, would they receive benefits like sick and paid leave and contribution to 401k?
This board has approved, before I came, there was no 401k, there was no benefits. This board approved that we would meet 50% for part-time employees and 75% for full-time employees. And every one of my staff that has afforded themselves to investing into their 401k or IRA has been given that opportunity. So regardless of part-time staff or full-time staff, they get benefits.
Okay, just curious, because we are a nonprofit here also at the health center, and our wages are lower than normal for MSS and, you know, compared to the hospital or the nursing homes who are for-profit. So that's another thing that we mentioned to the employees, that insurance and 401k matching and sick and vacation paid time. Your wage can be lower, but all those things added together kind of qualify for a higher wage.
And Stephanie's right, and I try to sell that as much as possible, you know, because that does factor into it. But, you know, at the end of the day, people have to pay their bills, and, you know, if they can't, they will go somewhere else, and they will work unhappily, you know. I think we do have the draw as far as, like, the word I'm hearing is that we are getting a lot of great feedback about the services that we do perform, the staff, the people that they would be working with. Like, they're hearing that we are a great place to work, but that's kind of where it ends.
Well, no, at least from my perspective as board president, that we're not unsympathetic to the situation.
Right,
We understand, and it sounds like it's gonna be addressed here,
right.
to some degree today, but
But I will say, you know, like, so I'm a perfect example. I was out of a job last year, the 2 days before COVID came to
Right.
town. You know, and, you know, in all honesty, I mean, you guys know I worked for 25 years before that, and somebody gave me the advice of, well, just take a nice vacation. Like, you earned it, you paid into it all these years. Well, that's terrific, but I am not one to sit around, and I do think that there are others out there like me. You know, because I couldn't just sit and live off of that. I knew it would come to an end. I have to do something. So, you know, I think that there are others out there, but it has to be, I guess, a prettier draw than unemployment, because I think with what unemployment does provide is about the same amount that our direct care workers would be bringing home. So how do we sweeten that pot a little bit to get people back into the workforce? So just putting it out there to think about.
I appreciate your comments. And, we definitely will address the issue.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
I hope you
Lana.
have a great day.
Any questions for Lana?
I'm out.
Before you get hammered, right? I inadvertently skipped over NEMSCA. I apologize, Vicky. So you're up.
Me?
No,
No.
Vicky Goodburn, can you hear us?
Oh, you're after this. Vicky, going once.
Oh, sorry. So,
Microphone was on.
I wasn't sure, what do I need to, I'm not even sure, I never had to present before. What do you,
Just introduce yourself, and if you have any agency updates, Vicky's new to her position and will be working with us. So you can
Yeah.
introduce yourself, your position, who you are.
my name is Vicky Goodburn, and I just started in November I was one of those ones that didn't have a job. In January, I quit my job. I'm the financial analyst at NEMSCA. And I do the financials, and I'm still learning, because like I said, it's only been since November. I was an accounting manager at the power company in Alpena for 19 years, and I left in January of 2020.
Okay. Well, if you don't have any updates, then any questions for NEMSCA AAA?
Well, I know there's some, with that COVID package that just passed, there's gonna be money coming for us for our programs, so just keep an eye out for those.
We
'Cause
will.
No problem there.
I know we just got one, but I know that they're not sending it all out we had an update yesterday from the Michigan legislator, the guy from AAA, AASA or whatever down there. I'm not sure where he's from, but he said that they're not trying to give it out all at one time. You know, they're trying to monitor it and not give it out all at one time.
Okay. Any other questions for Vicky? All right, thank you, Vicky.
All right, then that would be Julie.
That would be our illustrious head chef, Julie.
I'm not the chef. Chefs cooked all the fancy stuff. I
Oh.
just do good old home cooking. Okay, our yearly budget, is $5,000 or $55,200. As of the end of February, we have spent $17,650.50, which leaves $37,549.50. My monthly budget is the $4,600, and in February, I spent $2,884.11, left me $1,715.89. In February, I served 1,220 hot meals, 609 frozen meals, 440 sack lunches, and we did 56 congregate drive-throughs.
How's that compared to the previous month? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think it was up a little, well, it was down a little bit, I think, because February is a shorter month.
Right, okay.
So I think that just having those couple less days made it down just a little bit. But my congregate drive-through was up, of course, because we didn't do it as long in January. And then so that was a total of 2,325 meals we made in February. And we put 561 meals in the freezer to be sent out as frozens. And, you know, we keep putting them in all the time. So for the fiscal year, we did 6,593 hots, 3,841 frozen, 440 sacks, and we did the 56 congregate drive-throughs for a total of 10,930 meals. So, and now we have opened back up for congregate dining inside. So it started off, I had one night with 8, I had one night with nothing. And last night we only had 1. Tonight we're, as of now, they still have a little bit of time to reserve for tonight. I have 4 or 5 for tonight right now.
But it's just getting out there.
Yeah, it's just getting out there because the gentleman that called in, the last one, I haven't heard him come in a long time.
Okay.
So, you know, so that's a good thing. It's a new person, you know, so obviously the word's getting out there that we're starting to open because I'm hearing some new names.
Now, do you still have to call in, or are you making a few extra
We are
for
doing a
somebody
few
that?
extra if somebody stops in, and we also are doing, they can call in and reserve a takeout meal. So we have one couple that's been coming in kind of regular and just picking up the meals and taking them home. You know, so that's another option that, you know, we can do too.
So if somebody comes, like,
We
I
have-
don't know, like,
right.
I don't know what I'm gonna be doing at 5 o'clock.
Right,
I can, if I got time, I can stop in.
right.
Come in
We
and-
prefer the call, so we make sure we have extra,
Right.
you know, because it's hard to keep too many, you know, we don't want to keep too many out, you know, of the freezer, but, you know, especially on a Thursday, because then we gotta, you know, I guess it's been Thursday night, you know, after everybody's gone, but, you know, trying to make sure that, you know, we're storing them properly, you know, so we don't end up with spoilage. But, you know, we will, you know, do it, but if you can call in, that's better.
Now here you got that you made 3,841 meals in February, but you only sent out 609.
No, this is year to date.
Yeah, that down there was the
Oh.
year to date.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
sorry for the confusion on that. I thought, you know,
Okay.
But yeah, I just decided to add in the, total meals for the fiscal year on this one, so we could see it.
Any other questions for Julie? Looking forward to Salisbury steak. I haven't had one in a while.
Okay, so that's, Roland, did you want lunch today?
No,
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 of you? Okay,
Can you send Shauna in?
sure.
Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome.
Bill, you're not gonna stay and eat with us?
No, I got work to be done at the house.
Let them wait.
Not at my, the labor is required.
Yeah. The reason my house looks the way it does is I keep saying it can wait. I got something better to do.
I guess I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Hopefully
Shauna.
yours are all in order. I'm not sure if mine are.
Okay.
Okay, so the first sheet you should have is the February mileage report. Okay, so between the Jeep and the van for February, that's how many miles that we provided transportation. The second page, the numbers are a little bit down, but these are the actual trips that we did in February that were paid. The one at the very bottom, Ostomy, that was the private paid transportation.
Does that include any pay we get from DHS for those?
These are the DHS ones up here
Okay,
that say it's Lanny, Houghton Lake.
okay.
Okay. You also should have a distance traveled report. So in between some of the others, the total number was 2,824 miles. Fuel purchase report. So you can see it just kind of, it separates what it costs. We did do the bus one time and that was basically just to get it, drive it out, go around the block so the wheels don't go square and make sure everything's running appropriately. Because in the future, yes, when things start to open up a little bit more, I am going to be offering trips, shopping trips, to Walmart, Meyer. Folks want to go out and have lunch.
I have a question on the fuel purchase report real quick. On the Dodge Caravan, it shows 98 miles to the gallon.
Yeah,
I used to sell cars and that can't be possibly correct.
you would be surprised.
That car gets amazing gas.
That van,
98 miles to the gallon.
98 miles a gallon, no, that's,
Even the electric cars don't get
No,
that.
I mean, but it does, I think it might not be, might be something we're not running the report correctly, but it does get amazing gas mileage.
Yeah, they
Compared to
should.
the Jeep. The Jeep is a Henrich.
Yeah,
yeah.
those Dodge Caravans should be getting right around 30 to 35.
and then the summary report, I just put driver's summary report. These are both the vehicles and they kind of split themselves up. In other words, say Monday the 1st, 3 hours and 17 minutes, the vehicle was used. So it's all broken down week by week through the month. And I will not bore you with this really, really long report, but I ran one. This is the cost analysis report. And I only just printed the one page off for you. But you're always welcome to look at these. And so here again, it's a fascinating program once you can understand it. So the average journey cost $12.01. Total journey cost was $2,552.35. So between both my transport vehicles, to run those vehicles for the month was $3,470.49.
How do you figure overtime hours? Don't they do this during the regular workday?
They do. So lies the problem. I get a call, I get a offer from DHS to take a client. I do not know, unless they tell me ahead of time, you're just gonna take the client, you're going to take them to the hospital, you're dropping them off, you'll pick them back up tomorrow. It might be a one-day surgery. The problem is, because of HIPAA and other rules and regulations, they do not tell me you might be sitting there 8 hours while you are waiting for your client.
Right.
But
Because
is
we
all
do-
of them like that?
Not all of them,
Because
some of them can be short, some of them might only be 4 hours.
But on here, it says regular hours are nothing, but overtime hours is sky high.
Well, and there again, this is just,
We're not paying anybody overtime
No.
wages. I
This
think
is
the
just showing
category
you
that's what's showing
how
there.
much a typical day could look like. You might only be 3 hours and 15 minutes. You might be 10 hours and 30 minutes from the time you leave here to the time you get back.
Right, but
And then you may not work. I have a driver, he may not work for 3 or 4 days. It just depends on how much transportation requests are coming in.
right, but if somebody comes in here at 9 o'clock in the morning and they have to go down to the apartments and pick somebody up, take them to Alpena, and they're back at 3 in the afternoon, shouldn't that be under regular hours and not overtime hours?
Well, like I said, this is just, yeah, if I were doing a payroll sheet, I could use this for payroll. But this is just my way of showing all of you what it looks like, what a normal day might look like versus an
So basically just ignore the word overtime and that's just their
Exactly.
total hours. Because this all adds up. If you add across, that's the same figure as that 20 hours and 59 minutes.
And basically, it's dedication. You have to dedicate yourself because you do not know from the time you leave here, you do not know how long you're going to be out there.
If we got somebody here that works from 9 to 5, and then they have to put in another 3 hours before they're back here, don't we legally have to pay them overtime?
Based on
Or
total
not.
hours for the week,
Total, not total
not
for that.
per day.
Mhm.
So if they go over the,
We
whatever
short,
they're-
we short the next.
If they
day.
go over that 40 hours, then they're overtime.
Right.
Okay.
any other questions for Shauna?
So you have, volunteer drivers, just down there. You do have volunteer drivers, and I was just wondering if,
You volunteer, don't you, to take people or not?
Yeah. Come on, round of applause, let's hear it. Yes. Yes, Roland
I
has,
wasn't referring to myself, it could be anybody. You know, it's just volunteer drivers and how much time they put in,
and still, the thing you have to keep in mind though,
we don't get paid.
volunteer doesn't matter. There are strict rules and guidelines every driver must face. When we hire a driver, yes, we do the drug testing, we do the background check, we do all of that. But I also send them to Rapid Results in Alpena, where they also have like a simple, basic, are you fit to drive? You know, you don't fall asleep on the job, that type of thing. And they also do a 10-panel drug screen.
12.
So it kind of works together. It all comes together. So I make sure that whoever's behind that wheel, I don't have to worry that they're not safe, that the client isn't safe, because that is top priority.
Any other questions for Sean? Great, thank you, Sean.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it, doing a great job.
Can you send Paul in, please?
HCDC, are we getting a concert?
Yeah.
It's been washed.
I sent you an updated PDF.
Okay.
It's already been corrected.
That's why we pay you the big one.
Like,
Oh,
seriously,
yeah.
It only works when I actually have staff in the office. We
Yeah.
travel too much. It doesn't always work.
Hello, everyone. Thought I'd pass out, hopefully I've made enough copies for everyone. Just a trifold that, I've created, and going to be passing those out during our Easter, handouts that we're doing, in a couple weeks. And then also, I'm using that, I was thinking about printing a number of those out to hand out to people that are going to our food pop-ups too. Just as another reach out to people. So it's in regards to the day center, just trying to get the word out. So I thought I'd give you guys a copy. If you know of anybody that would benefit from attending the day center, that'd be great. So you have some information. And then I believe, I'll just pass this out because I believe I showed you that flyer. That's a flyer that I've been sending out as well. I've sent that to the health department, the clinic, sent it to a number of the local congregations in the area. And I'm gonna follow up with phone calls, as well. And then.
Nice job on the flyers, by the way.
Thank you. And then also, Change Pace, a flyer that also went out to local congregations in other areas about another fitness class that our fitness instructor is trying to reach out because there's not too many men that are attending the fitness classes. So anybody here that might be interested to come, it's going to be starting April 13th. We have a couple people that are interested right now, but that's another fitness class. I think we've been averaging over the last few weeks 2 to 4 new participants every week. So it's becoming a big hit. Lenny has bought some more equipment for up there, and it's been very well appreciated by the participants up there. What else? So again, the trifolds I'll be handing out during the Easter celebration, the food pop-up. And so one of the other things that Lenny was wanting me to help out with, we had contacted Consumers Energy about a possible funding source for the capital funding. I'm going to be helping him doing a proposal for funding through Consumer Energy. Any questions?
Is there going to be a charge for the daycare center?
It is based on income. There's a sliding scale, but yes. It's very small amount. I could show you the funding levels. I don't have that memorized, but it's very reasonable.
So if a client comes in, you get household income, or do you get an individual income? And do you have to have proof of that income, or just go by what they tell you?
We would prefer proof of the income, and that would be all part of the assessment. There's an assessment. If you read the first paragraph on the trifold, there is an assessment that's done based on their need, and if we feel that service for them. We can't provide service that somebody that is not ambulatory or isn't at least cannot go to the restroom by themselves. So that there's a big assessment, and I can show you that as well if you would like to see that at some point.
Now, if you said you take them 18 years of age or older.
Yes.
Is that money coming from our senior tax dollars?
No.
That's
because
not money coming from these because they would be
paying.
Paying out of their pocket?
right. It's not a free service.
Okay.
And that's another area that Deb gave me some information about a facility in Alpena for people that are mentally disabled. That might be another population that I could reach out to, that people that are 18 and above as well.
So we're only doing it Mondays and Tuesdays at this time?
At this time, until we get things moving along and there's less fear of COVID, then eventually the hours will be Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. So that was our original plan before COVID hit. It'd be 9 to 4, Monday through Fridays. So that will be our hopefully short-term goal that we'll reach to that level. Anybody else?
Any questions? Great, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I'm gonna do Deb's kinship, and then hopefully I can get all of this in the next 15, 20 minutes here. So Deb's been doing our telephone reassurance program. She has 42 seniors that have voluntarily signed up to get a call every day or every other day. And this is like a well-being, a wellness check. How are you doing? How's your health? Are you okay with food? Any services that you can need. And this is by volunteers. We had originally started calling everyone that has ever done business with us. Now we have gotten it to where this is a volunteer program. Region 9 AAA NEMSCA has offered funds to pay for these type of programs in the future. However, we would have to reallocate some funds from other programs to pay for this. At this time, this is something that we are recovering through our general fund. Next is our kinship program. Deb is also the head of our kinship care program. This is one of the programs that is a state program provided by ASA, which is the Aging and Adult Services Agency. They basically are funding this particular program provided by our grantor, which is NEMSCA, and we help seniors 55 years of age and older with young kids. So if they have school age kids from 0 to 18, we help them with school supplies, depending on if they need furniture like a bunk bed or a bed for the children, clothing, and those different things. So we're pleased to report that we did. We helped out 3 families in the last month that did not know that our services existed, and we were able to provide over $750 worth of services to those families. So that's from there. Really quick, there was mention about Easter on April the 3rd. That's a Saturday. We're going to be working with our community partners to put out Easter eggs to the community. We're going to use that as an opportunity to promote ACCOA to the public. We're going to be giving some Easter eggs. We're going to be partnering with Hope Shores Alliance, as well as our renter, Revolution Dance, and others. We're going to be using the parking lot to give out those Easter eggs. Everyone in Lincoln are going to be partnering. All the businesses in Lincoln are going to be handing out eggs as well. They changed it this year. It's no longer going to be like the kids going to go hunt the eggs. They're going to be receiving 1 egg per drop. So we had to prepackage the eggs. So our staff is going to be introducing themselves to the public as well as the parents and those individuals.
Is this the one that's in conjunction with the traditional Easter egg where they went from business to business? That Robin Hart was?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Teresa Hart.
Or Teresa, yeah.
So they're going to be finishing that up. So they're from 11 to 1. If you want to come be a part of that, we'll be up here at the top parking lot. We'll be moving our transportation vehicles up here to kind of get people kind of see those. I had intended for hiding the eggs in our transportation vehicles, but due to COVID-19 and things like that, we kind of amended to stay within scope. Also, we just completed Strike Force, which was our homebound vaccination program. I'm pleased to say that we vaccinated 40 homebound individuals in less than 24 hours. They all received the one shot Johnson & Johnson, and they had no issues within that homebound vaccination program. Also, we were asked after the fact, but I anticipated that this was going to come down the pipe. We created a virtual and in-person town hall meeting for COVID-19 vaccination in Alcona County. We were later then asked to help with COVID vaccination hesitancy in our community. So when they found out that we had already had this on the books, they were like, good, how do we help? So right now we are partnering, ACCOA is partnering with Alcona Health Centers, the District Health Department, number 2. There's going to be 7 members of the panel. Our board president is going to be a member of the panel. We have a local pastor that's going to be a member of the panel, 4 doctors, and our superintendent and various other people. It will be open to the public. We have seating for 150 individuals and virtual seating for 100. And that information has just gone out. I believe I put those flyers on the table here. You can take a few of those to share, to get that word out to those individuals. That would be beneficial. This event is not a event to dissuade or promote or push an agenda. It's just to provide facts, information. We have all of our local doctors. We have Dr. Marshall, who was a doctor in our community for a very, very long time. He's going to be on the panel, as well as individuals from the Department of Health and Human Services. So that is that. Next.
But that was
April 3rd, Saturday, April 3rd from 11 to 1.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, I want to, in your board packet, you should see a printout of a nice thank you card we received from Alcona County Schools. We did a quick fundraiser to address one of the things that we said. I made mention to this last month. Coat drive. We were able to provide over 25 or 30 coats and like over 30 pairs of boots to the Alcona schools to replace their closet. So that fundraiser netted about $3,000 that we were able to do to help with Alcona schools, and they sent us a very nice thank you letter for that. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Yes? Okay. You won't be able to see audio, but I will still share. Oh, it looks like it came back. I just have to redo it. Of course, it would work all this time until it gets to me. Then it wants to poo-poo on itself here. Come on. All right. Okay, I will, for the sake of time, this PowerPoint is in your board book, but for people here at on Zoom, I'm going to pull this up to you so you can see it as well. Is the volume good? Give me a thumbs up. Yes, everybody can still hear me. Perfect. All right, I'm going to share this PowerPoint presentation. So I want to kind of go, I want to put 3 terms on the board here. so we can kind of keep this in our brain here. We have floor, we have ladder, and then we have ceiling. And I probably might misspell that, I apologize. If it's I before you get just after C, is it, that's right? Okay, I was like, had to say it at one top of my head. I was like, that's the right way. Okay, so I'm gonna explain these quick terms. The floor is the base hourly rate. The ladder is adjusted for inflation. And we've at our center has kind of been giving over the last fiscal year 2 to 4%. Fiscally, most people conservatively adjust for inflation at about 5%. That's what our Edward Jones adjusts for, is inflation for 5%. And then ceiling is the cap for the particular position. Okay, so those terms, keep it in your brain as I do my PowerPoint presentation about it. What we were talking about today is raising the floor for our, and that's the rate of pay of what we pay, our basic rate of pay. So the purpose of this presentation is to address the concerns of our ACCOA programs and its managers by developing strategies to improve our overall job quality by attracting more qualified workers. When we don't have workers, we're not able to provide services. And when we're not able to provide services, we put those individuals who need services on a waiting list. We would not like to do that. We would like to be able to have enough employees that if someone got sick, it doesn't just throw 30 people in the lurch. And that's basically what we're doing in a kind of a global pandemic. Why we should raise the floor, because it targets specific workers in the area and it makes us competitive. We get an improved worker, a worker with higher job-related skills. It meets our needs with higher qualities of workers. Higher compensation leads to the improved employee productivity and stability. When people get a better paying job or higher paying job, they're least likely to want to quit and have turnover. If they say I can get another job anywhere making the same money, that's when you kind of get the 90-day turnaround, walk off the door mill. It also provides higher productivity from well-trained and stable workforce, higher career opportunities, protection against wage theft. If you are making a good job, you are less likely to want to commit fraud and theft. You know, you're not, if you are, you know, we're not saying our drivers do this, but if you're making a decent wage, you're not going to take money out of the box or the donation box. You know, it lowers recruitment and termination costs. Like I said, it costs somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 to train an employee because we have to take somebody off the floor to train that particular person, and that person is taken away from their current job duties. We also have fewer management and supervisory and HR headaches, which means we have to figure out how to reshuffle these individuals. On the next page, you'll see by the numbers, where you see on the left, you see our food services. I put down the 6 staff. I'm not going to identify those staff, but I put down their normal hours of work and then what it costs for payrolls and then what their years of service is. On average, those 6 staff cost us $9,038 a month. Now, as it was reported by our audit, that we get grants to pay for those services. We were getting 47%. Now, 47% was when I started in January, and then our fiscal ended in September. It will not, you know, when we're able to look at a full 2021, you will see probably a higher percentage because now we'll have a longer period of time to show a track record of the grant hitting more of these services because we have a robust cost allocation plan. But as it stands, as what it is right now, the grant is paying $10,026. So at its cost, the grant covers the payroll. Now, there's also food costs and travel and those different things that we have that in addition. But what the grant covers, it knocks off one of those areas. So let's say, for example, if we were to raise the floor by 50 cents, meaning if we were to increase the base hourly rate by 50 cents per person, that still would, our payroll would jump from $949.05 to $10,026. as you can see from the previous screen, that is basically what the grant is, and that's raising the floor by 50 cents. Okay. Our direct care staff. So we're going to move to the next staff, our direct care staff. Raising the floor in the in-home services, eliminate waiting lists of clients. That's a big thing. We have people that are asking for their services. They're like, why can't I get services now? Why can't this person, why can't I get 7 hours a week? No, I'm sorry, we can only provide 2 to 4 hours a week. Less turnover after 90 days. You know, I said this before, improve workers, it meets our needs, and it brings a professional worker. I would like to reach out and hire certified nurses assistants, people that already come in pre-trained, pre-packaged, that understand the services that we're trying to do and understand the industry standards of accountability, that, you know, they know that their license are tied to their quality of work. You know, you steal, you can never be a CMA again, you know, so that has a little bit of accountability. So in-home services program, it has a lot of numbers, but I'm just going to kind of throw all the workers. So I expanded it out to 10 workers, what it would cost for 10 workers. As you heard from my in-home service coordinator, we have 7. My goal is to get 10. I'd love to get 15, but right now our goal is just to hit 10 so we can pull so many people off the wait list. Our biweekly hours, so every 2 weeks is 639 hours, 0.5 hours. So that's a total of 6,905.08 in our biweekly total hours cost. That means that's how much it's costing the payroll every 2 weeks. Now you make that a month, that's $13,810. Okay. So then you have to look at what we're getting in grants and grant contributions. So our grant contribution is $7,230. Now we are never, ever going to get a dollar-to-dollar match from the state and the feds for any services that we do. That's the reason why we have a millage. That's the reason why we have to increase our fee for services. That's the reason why we have to increase fundraising, because we are never, ever going to receive a dollar-to-dollar match. I have the capability as an executive director to make that decision and say we will limit our services to a dollar-to-dollar match. However, that would waitlist an entire county of people. So we don't want to do that. We want to try to provide those services to the community. So as you can see from the grants, as you can see what we're looking at as program grants versus rate of pay, as you can see is in the food services, we have a considerable amount of drop, meaning we get more grant dollars than what we're spending in staff revenue. And then in our in-home services, there's a little bit of a gap, but it's more so like 20% in that spreadsheet. Okay, stop me at any time. I know I'm trying to be cognizant of time here. Okay, so in the pie graph on the next page, I took what we get is grants to all programs. Now, Cindy did her numbers based off of the fixed fiscal. I did my numbers based off of what I have currently in our 6 months audit that we're going to be turning in for NEMSCO. We're at 50%. She did it and she came out to 47. Right now, we're currently at 50% for all granted programs, of which 12% is payroll and 38% is what's millage. And that's what is our basic expenses. So the 38% is what the millage kicks in for our other programs. Okay. So as you can see, we have a little bit more millage than what we're spending for payroll. Next PowerPoint slide. Again, it's the same thing with the pay increase. As you can see, we went a 3% pay increase if we were to raise the floor by 50 cents to $1 to $1.50 just in certain programs. Okay, so and is that taken away from our overall millage? We still have a lot of millage left on the table to cover these additional expenses. I also took the liberty of reaching out to all of my other directors and I said, hey, show me your floor. Okay, show me what you guys are paying your workers. And just in the categories, as we kind of just see, you look at Ogama, Presque, Sheboygan, Mount Morenci County, Crawford County, and Iosca County, what they're paying their in-home service coordinators. As you can see, it goes from $12.75 up to $17. What they're paying their direct care workers, their providers, the people that Leanne are needing. The lowest end is 10, and and it goes all the way up to $15 in certain counties. In Sheboygan, they're making $15 in Sheboygan. Okay, their drivers, the top end is $11.45. Some people call it head cook. I never liked the terminology cook. I like food services manager. But as you can see, it goes from $11.50 to $17 an hour. Sheboygan apparently is balling over there, giving all their employees a high floor. Their kitchen assistants or people that are assisting in the kitchen, they go from $10.50 all the way to $12.25. Before I took over as executive director, everyone was making at or about minimum wage. There was no ladder. There was no giving 2% and 4% anywhere. There was no benefits. There was no retirement before any of this stuff happened. So, you know, we have made some strides, but like I said, we still need to, I believe, raise the floor. And our facilities manager, as well as the adult day coordinators at Crawford County and Ogama County, that's their current rate of pay for their day center employees. So what I am suggesting is a different floor. And I'll pass these things around.
I have a question on here, Lenny.
Mhm.
When it doesn't say anything at all, like on meal drivers, does that mean that they don't pay meal drivers?
That would be food assistants, the kitchen aid assistants.
Well, it's got meal drivers for Ogama
Right.
and Crawford and Iasco, but the other two, don't they deliver home delivered meals?
They do, but they didn't provide me with that information.
Oh,
Like this is what information, I gave them a list of what they're willing to provide me and they gave me that. So if they didn't
Okay.
provide me with those categories, I left it blank.
okay.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the PowerPoint here and I'm going to give out my suggested floor for our current positions. I also was requested last meeting that it was requested for job descriptions, so you can see what these individuals are doing. I put that also in your book, so you had a chance to review. I won't give you one, but I appreciate you saying. So what my floor and cap is, what you have on the left-hand side is the rate of pay, and then on the right-hand side is capped. So what I am suggesting is that we'll continue to provide the ladder of 2 to 4%, but once we hit the cap, they no longer receive the 2 to 4% in hourly or in wage increase. Okay. And there's a reason for that, because that's the second part I want to talk about. So on the left, let's say, for example, the third position, I won't say which because my staff is listening, but let's say the third position from the top, that wage floor would be $11.25 to $12.75. Okay. And then they will be capped at $12.75. So if the ladder took them 3 to 4 years or 5 years to hit that ladder at 2% or 4% increase that we would give fiscally, then they would cap out. So if we did the numbers and we say, hey, it was a really tough year, we can only give our staff 2% raises. That may slow down the cap to that person getting the cap a year. If we're generous and say, okay, that's 4%, you know, that would be on the timetable of about 3 to 5 years. I figured that out. The cap will be about 3 to 5 years per position of what the cap is, depending on where we start them. Okay. Some employees may get more based on seniority or based off of experience, those kind of different things. So they would start at a different position on the floor, but everybody will have a new floor. Everybody understand that? We're all coming into the building on the same floor, but somebody may go up the stairs because of them being there 8 years, 5 years, 20 years, 15 years, whatever the case might be. Okay. All right. Once we hit the cap, I would like to do this. Now, there really isn't a difference other than having a hard cap. What I would like to do is to put a 2 to 4% as a separate check to that employee for the fiscal year. So if your cap is 1275, okay, and that's the highest that weight that you're gonna get and receive. And that fiscal year, let's say fiscal 2025, we're gonna give all of our employees 2%. They would get 2% of 1275 as a separate check towards their payroll. Cindy's shaking her head,
Like a bonus.
like a
It
bonus
just
check.
doesn't add to the.
It just doesn't add to the hourly rate. It just would be a bonus check. Everybody got that? Everybody follow that? And that's how we address the cap. So they're still getting something, they just won't get continued. So we won't have direct care workers, if they've been here 25 years, making $35 an hour. They would still get their fiscal bonus based off of what we're getting. And it won't make our budget numbers go crazy because then we'll have a hard budget to see.
So are they gonna get that 2% every year, that extra check every year, or only when they reach their cap?
No, well, they're gonna get that cap when they hit the cap. They'll get their normal 2%, 2 to 4% ladder until they hit the ceiling.
So they're gonna get it every year then.
Except it will only be attached to a one-time check. It isn't,
Per year.
it isn't added to your hourly wage once you hit the cap.
Right. So let's say, for example, so this is 2021. Don't check my math, I'm just doing this out.
Pay attention.
So this is a 3-year progression. I know this is probably not right, but don't hold me to it. This is just numbers. So at 2021, they're making $12.50 per hour for 2021. We gave them a 4% increase in 2022. Now they're making that per hour for the fiscal year. And we gave them another 4% increase in 2023. Now they've hit their what? Their cap. So now in 2024, they will receive either a 4% or a 2% bonus check.
Would that be of their year, 2% of their yearly pay then, or
Right.
whatever the,
Whatever
Percentage.
their
Yeah,
percentage.
that's what I meant.
Right. So, and it won't be based off of, 80 hours. It'd be based off of the total hours that they worked. So if they only work 1050 or 1040 as a part-time employee, they would get that as a bonus when they hit the cap. Everybody got that?
What makes it nice is then in 2025, they're still at 1275. So you're not gonna keep increasing, that bonus is gonna stay right here.
Yep.
Fairly.
So what I'm trying to do as your director is to think a decade ahead. Okay? So this is me, when I'm in the office, my door's always closed or I'm working. This is me trying to stay ahead of this thing because we can't continue to keep asking for millage increase, millage increase, millage increase, millage increase. So that's why I'm asking for increased fundraising, increased fee for services program, increase all of our other programs so that we can raise what we bring in money from other sources and not rely on what the 3 things that she said. We're income dependent on NIMSCO, which is grants. We're income dependent on millage. We're income dependent on Gordon Foods. If we can start raising up these other category areas, we can increase our overall value as a company and increase our fee for services so that we have a little bit more reading room. Because COVID's not going to happen every year. Please, sweet Jesus, please. But we made money in COVID because there was so much grant money out there. I was really a grant writing fool. But that's not a stereotypical year. 2022 is not going to have $4 billion on the table for grant monies to apply. That's not going to happen. We're going to snap back to reality. So what I would like to do is take what I would like for the board to consider is to adopt our floor and then just leave it to me to accept where I believe each employee should be. and then they would have their new rate of pay. Now, I would like to do these ladders on our fiscal calendar. So now that we're now going to be having our audit in October, I will know by November or December, depending on how long it takes to finish it. They usually are a few weeks, but I will know here if we have it here. I'm not waiting 6 months. So this conversation I really wanted to do when I first started, but it took me a year to kind of see everyone's numbers, you know? And on top of that, we had to deal with a global pandemic. We had to deal with a whole bunch of other stuff. But this is now me being here almost 14 or 15 months now. I see where we're at. And we're in the middle of 2 fiscal years. So now this is going to fix our audit. So we're not going to see this. So if you guys have any questions on
How is that, or is that going to help our situation right now? Is that going to give 50 cents an hour to our direct care workers right now?
Yes, because once we adopt, I will then sit there and be like, okay, this is your new rate of pay. This is this person's new rate of pay. And we are also doing things that are fun. We're doing a referral bonus. I know I probably swatted that, bro. Referral bonus. Okay? Referral bonus. So, yeah, something like that. So we're doing a bonus, an incentive program, you know? Like, hey, if your person, if you refer, stays 90 days, you get 25 bucks. They stay 6 months, you get 50. They stay a calendar, you get 100. You know, these are things that we just try to do, you know, and increase overall, you know, morale amongst the staff.
And that's not an unusual program. That I've spent most of my life in sales before I got into human services, and that was common. You refer someone for a position, you would get well, in sales business, it was 250, 500, 1,000, you know, whatever. But I think that's a great thing.
And I believe everybody knows somebody that needs a job.
Yep.
And I'm sure that our people have talked about, well, this is what we're making. I can't make that.
Well,
You know, and if you're a single mom, or if you're a struggling family right now, you have to make these decisions.
and my fear is once we get out of COVID prison and more businesses begin to open up again and people are going to McDonald's and making 15 bucks an hour, we're going to have an even bigger struggle getting people to come where we're paying 10, 12. We don't. Right.
And with this new structure, it gives me latitude of how to structure and how to put people on the scale.
Right. If we need to start someone at a little bit higher wage, that's fine. It's just that they'll get to their tax quicker.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Are they, let's say they're making that $10.10 an hour, she said. If you get benefits on top of that, what is that worth? Is that worth another $1 an hour? Or is it worth $5 an hour more? Or is it worth 10 cents an hour more?
Then that would be,
The benefits that
Wait.
they're also gonna get.
that's based off of two things. And I can answer it one way, but I can't answer the other way. The one way I can't answer it is it's the individual. What do they think it's worth? Okay. Right now, it is no extreme or exorbitant cost to us as an agency because not enough of our employees are affording themselves of it because they cannot afford to take it out of their check because we're not paying 100%. So if somebody who is 62 years of age or older and works in our kitchen, and because she's 62 years of age or older, her monthly contribution to her month or for her health insurance is $400. She's not going to take $400 out of an $800 a month check to pay for health insurance. She's going to say, nope, I'll take Medicaid or Medicare or some free service that I can get.
Well, is that also true with the 30-year-old that's out there and
Well, the
20-year-old?
30-year-old has a different pay structure. Their monthly contribution may be 125 bucks. I don't set the rates. The insurance company does, and I can tell you, the younger you are, the lower your rate.
So is our employees taking advantage of this?
Yes, we
program?
have about 5 or so employees that are getting taking help.
5 out of 30?
5 out of, right now, we have like 21.
So basically a quarter of the people.
Yeah, that's really not that many, is it?
Well, I mean, for us, it is, but again, if you can't afford to take it out of your pay, and because your hourly rate puts you at like Medicaid status, you're gonna take Medicaid. Some of our employees are also in our food pop-up lines. Some of our employees are also getting food stamps and assistance. Some of our employees can also refer themselves to some of the heating assistant credits that we're doing for people because they qualify. So not only are they providing the services, but they qualify for the services.
We are doing that heating assistance then,
We are working with
that I showed you in the paper?
Well, that's a different thing. We're doing the heating assistant credit is through MEEP, and that's a different grant through the through the Salvation Army, and that's something different. I have to research that, Dolores. I don't know what that is, so that's going to take me some time to research it.
Any other questions for Lenny? Okay, we can discuss this briefly as new business as well, since keep going on the agenda. Do you have any more in your?
Nope, that's it. That was my piece de la resistance, sir.
Well, thank you for the cogent and coherent presentation. I've sat through a number of these over the years, and usually I walk away shaking my head. Okay. So we got all that. Job descriptions for the board for our review are in our board books. Take it because that was a request for Lenny. He has printed those out, so take the time to read through them. If you have any questions on them or what have you, we can discuss that next meeting.
Are we going to vote on this proposal? Or?
Yeah, we'll bring that up under new business.
Okay.
Committees. I am not assigning all of the committees right now because I want to fill that other board position before we do that. However, the personnel / policies and procedures / what was the other slash? There was another finance. I did appoint
Personnel, finance, and policies and procedures.
Right. I did appoint those. We have Kathleen, Dolores, and was it Stan?
Dan and Rowan. With Dan,
No, there should only be 3.
okay, I think Rowan was.
Okay, and Rowan.
Dan doesn't want to be
Right.
too involved.
Okay, so yeah, the 3 of you then, have you met?
No.
I know you kind of were discussing outside of the meeting, the bylaws and things like that.
Well,
Okay.
this isn't really the bylaws, though, is it?
Well, that'd be
No,
under policy.
Bylaws was something different.
Okay, well, that we appointed with it. You,
Sam and Sam.
okay, have you guys met? Okay, so what I would ask is that you guys plan a meeting. And of course, our goal for the committee is not to rewrite the bylaws, it's to make suggestions of what should be revised or added or taken away or what have you. And then we'll bring it to the full board for discussion and a vote on revising those bylaws. So sometime between now, if you can, between now and next month, I think probably sooner rather than later, to get, because there are things in there that do need updating and changing.
So what is this committee you're talking about?
The other one is finance, policy, and
Procedure.
right, and
Personnel.
personnel. And that used to be me, but as president, I don't sit. I mean, I sit on the board, but not as a voting member.
But you're involved in the committee.
I'm involved in as many committees as I have time to get
all of
to.
them.
Yeah, I'm technically, I'm the
You're the
non-voting member of all of them. So, did you want to sit on the finance, policy, and
Oh, yeah, that's
personnel?
interesting.
okay? I don't want to get you so that you're
Oh.
like
No, I like to read.
getting gray hairs because you're so involved.
I see the hairdresser once a month.
Well, so do I. Except mine's not working. Mine's still going gray and pink. You stay out of this
Okay.
discussion. Okay, so we've got Kathleen, Dolores, you wanted to sit on that, and Rollins. Okay. The rest of the them, I'm going to appoint once we
At a later date.
add that, yeah, once we decide who's gonna sit on the board in that position of Mary Kidd's place, then, because I want that person to be involved in the board, you know, involved in all of that kind of stuff. Okay. Did any other committees, well, we really don't have any committees, but were there any other outside meetings on discussions of?
I don't have, it's not under a committee, but I would like to report the TFAB.
Yeah.
We had it in February. We had to unload the truck. And this is a biggie now because of the COVID, you know, had a lot of problems. But to unload the truck, I had 15 volunteers that provided 40 hours. And for distribution, I had 14 volunteers for 41 hours. And we served 190 families, 384 people. And 6 people stayed to eat, which NIMSCA paid $27 for that. NIMSCA also paid $250. I believe it was for 2 different days, Monday and Tuesday, to use the upstairs. So it is a nice program. I believe it was down. I know it was down this in February, but I think it was because of all the pop-up pantries and all that going on.
Well, and that's close to the numbers that we get at the pop-up pantries too, so they might be doing both.
Oh, I'm sure they are, yeah.
If they're smart, I mean, that's,
We
take advantage of
got,
everything we can do.
we got some that comes to the pop-up pantry here, first in line, and then they hurry up and get down to Greenbush
Right,
and get it
yeah,
again.
I know. That's, yeah. that's
We
unfortunate.
can't help that.
You can't help it, yeah,
You can't
and when we
control
had
it.
6 sites,
They went to all
Yeah.
yeah, because when I was lining people up in the parking lot
the same people.
this last summer, they would ask, now, what are the times at all the other places? And I'm going, so I knew what was going on.
Mhm.
What do you do? Thank you. That's, I haven't been able to come and volunteer for TFAB in a long time. I need to get back on. that. So
Well, I'm
thank you very much.
hoping by May that we can be back inside,
Yeah,
because it sure is a lot less work.
and a lot warmer.
Yeah,
That by May would be nice.
Maybe.
Yeah.
yeah, we did have good weather though.
Great. Thank you. Madam Secretary, any old business that we need to bring up?
We have the corrections.
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
Oh, we should probably, did everyone get a chance to review the correction? Is it,
They're underlined, right?
Yeah.
right,
Right,
corrections are under all.
yeah.
Is
was
that-
the requested corrections? Did you get one?
Oh, yeah. Is there any, everything look good to everybody on that? Okay. All right. Well, then we will accept the January minutes as amended. Thank you for that. Pam. Okay, also under old business is, did you pass these out or are they just?
Yes, they have to pass out now.
This is the resume and letter of interest for
The second candidate.
the second candidate for board.
And we didn't get the one for Will.
Did we not print that out?
I'm gonna have to print that out.
No,
I,
Last month they said, we would get it when we got it.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, well, if we can get that printed out. then. So, take a minute to look these over and then we will,
you can do it for the next meeting or, no, it's up to you guys.
what do you guys want to do? Do you want to take time to look these over now and vote today? Or do we want to, we're already at 12:30, or do we want to hold off till next month?
I would say hold on.
Yeah, I think that gives more time to,
Look it over.
And then we'll get the other one from
Yeah.
Will.
that would be good. All right. Okay.
And also,
Yeah.
last month, it said that we were going to, Dave Cook was gonna look at that ethos contract.
Oh, yeah.
What was his response?
Lenny?
I
You didn't see
provided
that?
it, the response that was provided, I clarified with him, it said that was for both contracts. He put his suggestions there. And I do believe we might have stuck it in the binder. I will,
No, it's not.
I
Because the
didn't
one we
see it.
got last month was only for the Molnar thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't get his comments because I looked at the CISO stuff and according to Dun and Bradstreet, it's only got 2 employees. Period. It was started in 2016. It's basically a broker. He's not gonna be doing anything other than telling you where to go and where to look at. And if you look at the contract, I mean, I thought that was really, really interesting. On his statement, everybody that he has on here are all consultants. They are not employees. He said he involved in all these projects from 2012 and all that, and the business didn't start until 2016. And then the interesting thing is, if you look at the agreement, it says the assumption of the submission of an application to MISTA on October 1, 2021. Several months from now. Work shall begin on or about March 1, 2021. We're already past March 1, 2021. Including disengagement no later than June 30, 2021. How come we have it when we don't have a contract? The dates are all wrong. And then he's going to charge a service charge if the invoice is not paid within 15 days of receipt. If he's an independent contractor. And if there's any disagreement about what he's doing, all mediation and all lawsuits will have to be held in Wayne County, Michigan. That means you gotta hire an attorney down there. You gotta run down there. You gotta get a hotel. You've got food. You gotta pay the fees. And you have to pay him. According to his paragraph of page 3.
I don't know, sounds like it's changed.
Yeah. And on that other one, the Molnar thing that Dave Cook looked at, it also asked about why we are not getting bids on all these things. Instead of somehow people are being handpicked. That should be a conflict of interest, in my opinion. Dave Cook did ask that, but yeah, I mean, this contract is very scary.
When I was on the board before, we was doing some projects around, and they had the assignment of going out and getting 3 bids and different people in there. And then at the next meeting, I had to present those 3 bids to the board and voted on which one to take.
Okay, this is a 501c3. so we
This
should have
don't
that.
sound like anything like that.
No, in fact, if you look at the CISO thing, it's got the pictures of all these people, but they're all consultants, except for one young woman. So 2 employees, they don't even have office staff.
When did they start their business? Did you say
20 Brad
16?
Street, yes, it's 2016.
So they're kind of brand new.
And they were into excavation, not into handling a project this size, $25 million. I mean, they're basically a broker, a middleman.
But that's not true, Ms. Kessler. They just completed a $50 million project in Detroit for an equestrian project in downtown Detroit.
He didn't, he's got 2 people, him and a young woman. That's all he has. He has no employees.
But
Going
if,
to Dun and Bradstreet.
but if they structure their program or their employees as 1099 independent contractors, that's how they structure their employees. Google has 1099 contractors, they have direct employees, and they have other employees. So how they do their thing, they were recommended by our architect, which was SideHawk Group. They have worked with this particular group before, and this is what we also, had already voted on to do it. I understand that there might be some concerns, but what we had voted on last week upon our review from the attorney, Dave Cook, said these are his concerns. We brought those things up. You guys discussed it, and then we made a vote to proceed with Ethos.
No.
versus, we said upon review
by the
that,
attorney.
that by the attorney. The attorney did review it. He had already previously reviewed it, and I asked him to give that up. You wanted a typed up thing, and he said, I am doing this pro bono. And if you want it, you need to put me on retainer. So right now, this is what he said he would be willing to do, reviewed it on his own time for ACCOA.
But he says I see no reason to agree an arbitration in Wayne County. Continue to pay them. But my question is, the dates in here are wrong in March, with the thing in October. You just signed a contract with Molnar, feasibility, which is gonna take 40 weeks. That's either, it takes us into late November, early December. $25,000 to do this feasibility study. You don't even have the answers back to the feasibility study, and now you wanna go ahead with this with a company with
But Miss
a man and a
Kathleen,
woman.
that's because you're confusing two projects.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are, ma'am. You've been here too much. Let me explain. There's two projects that are running simultaneously, concurrent with each other. So there's project number one, which is the housing project, as I explained last month, and that is through Ethos. The glue that holds both products together is the side-out glue. Then there's project number two, which is the community center. Okay, so this is also with Molnar and his partner, and they're doing a feasibility. Both require a feasibility. This is done through MISTA. You pay MISTA $6,500 for their feasibility study. Molnar is completing a community feasibility study for all of Alcona County. Well, he'll be interviewing people. He'll be creating an advisory council. You'll be having a panel at a kickoff event that's coming up. However, I was keeping with our current timetable so that I wouldn't throw all of this once. When he gave his presentation and he gave us the list of the 2 or 3 pages, I don't believe you were a part of that meeting, or maybe you were, because you voted in the affirmative for it. So he gave this entire presentation of how this is going to fall through, or how this is going to go. Says that we'll have a kickoff, then an advisory council. The advisory council will have businesses and local other business partners, because it looks good when we involve the community, because we're calling it the community center. We're going to be sending out letters, which are just now starting to roll out. Then we're going to have a meet and greet with the county at the community, at the Alcona High School, where people can sit there and give their questions. We'll have a town hall. We'll have all these different things. We've created all of the survey monkeys and all these things that are be going out, a part of what we paid from the 25,000. This is what's going to be generated from that. So we're not paying any additional fees. This is what's all coming in there. This was 15,000, okay, and that covers Ethos's fees, and I believe the 6,500 from there. So this is why these are 2 projects. This one will submit October 1. This will submit sometime in 2022. In the meantime, I am meeting with all these other people to gin up more support, like our representative, our state senator, will all say to this project, because we are working within the system. These have rules of what we have to follow, because we're following MISTA. We're asking money from USDA, and they have rules and guidelines of how this is supposed to go. MISTA has a set of rules that you only can pick a certain person that can do this work. You have to have previous experience to even submit to them. This is why this person was chosen, because they have the most experience in this area. So we're following the guidelines of what's said in front of us.
Isn't he from Detroit area? The Ethos guy?
Yeah, around that area.
We don't have anybody up here,
Not to do the
Traverse
size,
City, Saginaw,
not the size and scope that we're trying to do.
Gaylord? Traverse City?
Traverse City is not gonna put, well, I, no hate against Traverse City, but they're least likely to put up a low-income housing in Traverse City. Most of your big time are gonna be high urban areas. They're gonna have the most experience with putting that. Your Lansing, your Detroits. Again, I trust these individuals that we came here, you guys met Brad, you met his team, and he said, of the people that are out there, these three you can choose, or this particular person is the best. We've worked with this person before. Okay? Now, when we get to the part of like general contracting, yes, we'll put a bid in there. Right now, we're still in the conceptual phase. We don't need all the other cooks in there because we're still in the conceptual phase. It's here that we'll put a bid. When we're further down the tracks.
Well, so far you saved at least $26,000 to SIDOC group. That's as of February 13th. We don't yet know what was paid in March. Then you're gonna pay 25 to Molnar, 15 to Ethos, 65 to MISTA. So you're talking, it's pretty close to $100,000.
$125,000 to the dollar.
And we don't know what those 3 surveys cost?
You do know what the 3 surveys cost because
No, it wasn't in the minutes, remember? She said the cost of those surveys was not in those minutes, no, in the minutes that she put in those.
It's in this one now, the revised one.
No,
Oh, it's not.
Oh, that's not it?
No, that's a different.
No.
it's in either October,
Okay,
November.
So I wrote
Ms.
by,
Fortunis, I will gladly print out so you can see before, this is before your time. The board and everybody else saw it because it was 12,000 for one, it was 1,280 or roughly for another, and then don't hold me to the number, I know it was like another 1,000. Okay, and that was like a topographical, a geological survey, all of which are standard for these
I
projects.
understand that, I used to work for FHA.
Right.
HUD.
So currently, $125,000. So then I sat down and I said, wow, that's what we need. We had 1 year worth of funding, and I said, no, look at our investments. How can we build this project without taking that? So we made that an investment because I sat there and I worked it out. I worked the math. I did the work. Then at the end of all of this, if we are funded, we get it all back.
Yeah, but the question is this.
If we don't do it, it's an automatic no.
Right.
If we do it, if it gets funded,
So
we
my
look
question
awesome.
Is, I rode past this piece of property yesterday. Is it in the village of Lincoln proper? Is the fire there?
It's in Guston Township.
Justin Township. Have you done anything with their zoning ordinance?
Yes, we have met with the Guston Township because we're following the process.
Okay, because if it's a special land use, they have to have a public hearing.
We're aware of that because we're following the process.
And they might not allow, their zoning ordinance might not allow a mixed use, which is housing and a building, community center. So it might not be safe for the residents there. Maybe it's too large of too many units with not adequate parking, because usually you have to have 1 or 2 parking spaces per unit, but you have to have visitor parking.
We have all that in the site plan, Ms. Fortunis.
Right, but that all has to be approved by Guston Township.
Exactly, and we have.
And when are you gonna do that? What happens if they say it's too much?
Can I speak to that? I'm the supervisor for Guston Township, and we're well aware of it. And we've had meetings with several people already. We're having a meeting again the 29th to go over how we're gonna change it. It's, at this point in time, it looks quite feasible according to our zoning administrator, who is Adam Brady. that it should not be a problem whatsoever at this point in time by changing from one position to another as far as calling it residential.
Well, you have to change the zoning before you can start going ahead with this.
Correct,
You can't do it after the fact.
correct. That's what we're doing right now.
So then it's either commercial with residential, or it's agriculture.
For forest rec.
And I believe Forest Rec has very, very limited
Mhm.
residential.
and we
does not
are
allow
looking at-
multifamily.
Yeah,
No.
I also sat on the zoning committee for 21 years, so I'm well
And
aware
I've
of
got
those
15
things,
years.
yeah. So we are working on that, and we're having a meeting the 29th to kind of resolve that so that we can go forward. By the end of June, we'll have an answer as to what our board decides. And,
So if your board doesn't go along with
That's right.
this, is this all money down the drain?
not necessarily, because there are other, there's a possibility, but the likelihood of us not going along with it when you have Alcona Health Center and the high school in the same region
Right,
is
at least you've
minimal.
got
And both on
commercial,
board.
though,
Is minimal.
and you're putting elderly people in housing in the middle of a commercial area.
Ms. Martinez, I will say this, I appreciate your affection, I appreciate your thoughts on this. You know, and by all means, please share, and, I think that this could be done in either a subcommittee, or this can be done as the entire meeting, or something like that. But I do believe that right now, everybody is like chomping at the bits to walk out. I would say, can we table this and bring this up at another time so we can sit down and have a more in-depth? I would be happy to meet with you and the board president, and you can meet with any of these groups. But this was the vision of this board before you came. So I understand you have questions, but by all means, we would love to sit down with you, president, vice president, we can have lunch, and we will explain that. You can come meet these amazing people who are busting their humps, who could be charging us 15% of the pot, they have a vested interest to see this because they're out money too. If this doesn't get funded, all the hours and money that they're doing is going to. So they want to see this project go. They're not just saying, give me $12,000 a month. They're saying, you know what? I'll see what we can get at the end, which will be rolled into the cost.
But in your June 8th, 2020 meeting minutes, it said the Buildings and Grounds Committee will oversee the new building project. And we haven't heard any updates from whoever is on this committee as to this new building project. So I'm concerned that this board, as individual members, we are not appraised and advised of what all the costs that have been paid to date on this project. You try looking at those financial statements, it's really, really hard to try and figure out what the total cost is that's been going out. Why isn't there a sheet saying that project one, project two, this is what's been paid from beginning till now? I mean, I think the people in this county need to know that.
Well, you have received that because
No,
when we're not paying anything that hasn't been approved by this board.
I'm not so sure this board knows what all these costs are. Can someone tell me what the $6,000 payment was February 13th? Or the $8,100 payment in January the 19th of this year? Does anyone know what is done in a month's time for that kind of money? From SIDA?
I can pull the file and that's.
Well,
and-
I think we need a piece of paper.
Well,
That
I mean,
shows us what's the.
that's fine. I can give you a more detailed, that is the hours of what it took, or what they're doing, and we renegotiate. Hang on, let me finish. You asked for an answer. We renegotiated our fee structure with them because I told them $8,000 was too much. So we renegotiated, so they would only do 40 hours a month, which is the bare minimum to continue this project and keep it afloat.
So how much was it for March?
I believe
It was
somewhere,
6,000 in February.
it's good.
And I mean, what's being done for this amount of money? I mean, we already saw the plan. What else is being done?
They have to design the building. They have to meet with the township board to discuss zoning, to discuss what all the other rules. they have to put together the site plan for project one, which is the doors, knobs, the fixtures, and everything that does for the construction. Because MISTA also has a scoring. We have to do a pre-scoring submission. So we do a self-score and say, okay, how do we pick up additional points? Hey, your transportation program, we can pick up 5 additional points if you're willing to provide grocery assistance and drive people to there. Okay, cool. Let's make sure that that program is doing that. So there is a structure, there is a process, there is a program that how this goes.
Shouldn't we maybe put things on hold a little bit until till the township decides even if they're gonna let us do it? I mean, we're putting all this money in, hoping that they'll say yes. But what if they don't?
We won't meet the deadline. We won't meet the deadline. Augusta, we've met. Okay.
Or maybe just have a special meeting and just talk about this new building
What
stuff.
actual cost of what's been paid so far in every one of these little categories?
Maybe a special meeting for something like that. Can we do that?
Yeah, it would have to be a public, we have to give notice, it has to be a public meeting, et cetera, just like these. We have to put up the notification.
I mean, because people sitting out there are probably a little bit concerned if they find out 100 grand's already been spent.
Can
And
we
nobody knows on
take the
what.
vote for the other program? I know we're just doing general discussion. This
Yeah.
is not on the agenda. I would like to.
You're talking about the floor ceiling.
Right.
Yeah. Let's table this. We'll set up a special meeting. We'll discuss it then, when we have all the numbers in front of us. Right now, all we're doing is pulling numbers out of thin air. I mean,
Glad to see 'em there.
Lenny's not, I mean, he's got the figures, but it's for us to have it in writing.
To ask me what happened with $8,000 on a day, I have no idea.
Right.
Because I wasn't looking at it at the moment. I'm not even looking at your paperwork, so I couldn't tell you.
Right.
You know,
So I would entertain a motion to table this
I make a
discussion. All
motion to table this.
I'll
discussion.
second it.
right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, we'll
You-
set up
you
a,
gonna set up
we'll
the
set up,
meeting?
I'll get with Lenny and we'll set up possible dates, make sure that everyone's available to come so that we don't have, you know, a non-quorum or something. We want to make
Okay.
sure everybody's available. Okay, so new business, that would be the floor ceiling thing. You've heard Lenny's presentation on that. Are there any further questions for Lenny on it?
About how much of an increase are you planning? 50 cents, $1
It would,
for across the board or for certain people?
it's in the range. So it's not gonna be a set across the board for everyone gets this and everybody gets that. It's gonna be a range. So you're approving a price range.
So we don't know then if the direct care worker is gonna get $1 an hour and the girl that's been here for 20 years is gonna get 50 cents an hour. We don't know that.
Depends on where they are in the range. So if the girl that's been here for 20 years is
the same.
10 cents below the ceiling,
She's only gonna get 10 cents.
right, plus the 2%
But
or whatever it is.
how
bonus.
fair is that?
It's
To
very
give
fair.
this girl that's only been here 6 months, gonna give her $1 an hour raise. The one that's been here for 20 years is gonna get 10 cents an hour raise.
Well, it's fair
Is that
because
really
of
fair?
the, yes, because of the bonus of 2 to 4%, depending on that they'll get. So they won't go over that cap, but they'll get that extra bonus in a check. Let's just say 2%, just for argument, of 2% of their yearly income. So they're gonna get more, whereas that direct care worker that's already at the bottom of the floor gets a 50-cent raise and they're still in that range, they're not gonna get the 2% bonus because they're not at that cap. So it evens out that way. It'd be just like me and my job. I get, you know, I don't know where I am in the range, you know, because I don't know what the range is. But if, I'll go back to my sales career. You know, we got X number of salary and everyone was different. I made more than somebody in a even more rural area. Somebody in Boston made a heck of a bunch more than I did salary-wise because of cost of living and all of that. But the rest of us then, our bonuses were based on our production, where this is not based on production. if they're not producing, they're probably not gonna have a job. So, but that's the way companies do the bonuses make up for that wide range, because you don't want to give, say you have two direct care workers and one's at the top of the pay scale, one's at the bottom of the pay scale. You know, you gotta be, you don't want somebody making way more money in salary than, I mean, granted, you got a new employee that has to work their way up the ladder. That's why we have the ladder. But when you get to that cap, then the benefit of getting to the cap, if you will, is getting that extra 2%. Because if we keep giving a 2% pay raise in their hourly rate every year, and they've been here 20 years, like Lenny mentioned, they're gonna be making $25 an hour. And you know, people are gonna look at that and go, oh, and you're gonna have a hell of a time getting people, you know.
Well, I guess I'm looking at it a little bit different, because I'm thinking the girl that's been here 6 months is gonna get $1 an hour. And this girl is dedicated to this program, been here 20 years, and she's gonna get 10 cents.
And again, it depends on where
So
she is in the range. If she's
Yeah.
at the lower end of the range and she's been here 20 years, the likelihood is that will be taken into account when those new salaries are set per person.
I think at the end of the day, a pay raise is a pay raise is a pay raise. They're not gonna complain at an extra $1,000 a month if they were not getting $1,000 a month. I think the benefit is having a little bit of breathing room in their rate of pay, as what I showed the board, that there's 9 other centers that are so graciously showed us what they pay their employees, and we can compare. And I basically took the sweet spot of averaging all the other ones.
And the turnover is costing us a fortune. I mean, every time you have to train a new employee,
It costs money.
it's, Lenny quoted it was several $1,000s. I've been in companies where it was $25,000 to $50,000 to train a new employee. So we lose someone over 25 cents an hour, but it's gonna cost us $3 or $4 grand to replace them, just because you're gonna have to train somebody new. And then you've got inexperienced people constantly, you know, because of the 90-day turn or whatever the turnover rate is. You know, if you always have somebody that is still learning the job, you're never gonna have somebody that's an expert that can kind of lead the rest of the staff up that ladder.
And we always have a 90-day policy for employees anyway. So I would develop a 90-day employment policy. So yeah, you would come in at this particular rate, maybe at the floor of 1010 of our previous floor, and after 90 days, you would go back to a different floor. So then we know that that person goes from being a probationary to a provisional employee. So I mean, like I said, I just need the wiggle room and the space to work with the staff, to keep the staff that I have and get more.
Okay, any other questions? Good question. Any other questions? All right, I would entertain a motion if someone is so.
I make a motion to adjourn.
That's not the motion I was looking for. I would entertain a motion to accept Lenny's proposal for the rate of pay cap and floor.
I'll make a motion to accept this proposal.
Okay, so Stan is making a motion to accept, as written here on the sheet, Lenny's proposal for the rate of pay.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, this is a financial issue, so we do need to make a roll call vote, please.
Did Dan ever come on?
Dan did not come on, but Stephanie Walker is in the affirmative. She
Okay.
votes yes.
Okay,
Stephanie, okay. Stan, obviously, yes. Kathleen? Yes. Dolores, yes. Dan? No, he's not here. And Pam, yes. So all, did I miss anybody? No,
Yeah, me, yeah.
I assumed yes. I assumed you and Stan said yes.
and I'll put, even though we don't need a tie-breaking vote, I'll put mine in so that it's
All right.
that I supported it. All right, motion carries. All right, now I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to have you sign the 990 for her.
Oh, yeah, that's right, we did. I need a motion to sign the 990 for Cynthia.
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, now, motion to adjourn so that we can fill our bellies. You already made the motion earlier, but make it again.
Make a motion.
Okay, it's
I'll
been moved,
second it.
been properly moved and seconded. I doubt there's discussion, but is there any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Meeting is adjourned at 1:01. Thank you, everybody.